What is up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to week three. Oh boy, take two. Week 2 of the NFL DFS season. This is Dean. I've been up, I swear. I didn't just pop out of bed, did not just roll out of bed. 3.5 hours of nonstop NFL DFS conversation starts right now. We have the People Show, of course, Bobby Gomes, TastefulTides, Tim Buell, coming on later, 11 a.m. Beimfohr, as well as Neil and Jordan Vanek, closing us out for crunch time. TJ Zwarych, Kyle, Kristi, taking y'all home. Again, 3.5 hours nonstop. NFL DFS conversation starts now. Do it, that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Y'all hanging out in chat. Hello, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. It's a Superstar Sunday. We're going to give away another week free of RG Premium. We'll explain that in just a second. But Bobby Gomes with in disguise this morning with this. It's a spectacular mustache. It really is. I love it. You didn't think that you're going to fool us, right? I mean, nobody commented on your stash free show, at least not the part that I partook in. We were talking about.
I was gonna throw on the glasses and pull a Bobby Valentine.
It's a great reference that like 3 people got, but I got it and I enjoyed it. Dude got ejected in a baseball game and he did not leave. He's not going to the. He stayed in the dugout and just put on the fake glasses and the fake nose. Why did he have that? Why was that something he just had on his person? Who would just have that available for such a prank? But well done. Maybe producer TJ can throw that up on the screen, but that was spectacular.
I feel like your hair isn't even real, Bobby. Is that real hair or is that like
it's spectacular?
What's going on with that? I mean, the flow is amazing this morning. It's legitimately impressive.
It's pretty solid.
Thank you. A lot of people would say Davis Maddock is the best hair in DFS. I would politely decline. I think it would be me.
You're saying you're number one in the power ranking.
You're really going after his look there with the mustache too. I mean, I feel like Davis does have a better mustache than you, Bobby, but I would say your hair is better than his.
Okay, that works.
You'll take that. There's Davis on it's not an updated photo, unfortunately. I think he's rocking a stash these days.
Look at his hands. Look at his hands.
Is that an accurate depiction or is that AI?
According to Kirkwood, yeah.
Listen, Kirkwood's your source. You're saying that is accurate. All right, fair enough.
Someone in that secret chat made that picture, I would imagine. That was the CPC photo, correct?
Years ago? I think so. I cannot confirm or deny, but yeah. Somehow TJ got a hold of it.
Chop sent that to me for his first show with Davis last year.
Yeah, that was from CPC.
I'm sure that went over well. Yeah, you got TJ producing us 3.5 hours. He jumps over to crunch time. Big long morning, early morning for TJ out there in Saskatchewan, Canada, waking up, I believe 7:30 in the AM. Again, hit that like button to subscribe, turn on those notifications. We're going to give away a week free of RG Premium. How do you do that? Well, it is Superstar Sunday. It's much like Movie Monday, different games you play throughout the week on our baseball shows. Jump in the Discord channel and tell me what superstar I'm talking about. I will drop the first clue now for the early risers. We'll drop a clue every 10, 15 minutes or so, give or take. The first clue is champion. Get in that Discord channel. Tell me who I'm talking about. Get it first. No MMing, just one guess per clue drop. And you get yourself a week free of RotoGrinders Premium. Not just for football, by the way. Not just for football, not just NFL, not just college. But you get all the sports, baseball, football, basketball, NBA. I know NBA is not in session. You know what I'm saying. All the bells, all the whistles as well. The articles, the tags, lineup HQ, SimLabs, everything you can think of. Get yourself a week free of RG Premium. All right. Week 1 is down. Moving along to week 2, officially week 2. Injury stuff we're monitoring. Xavier Worthy's not going to play. If you were thinking about him potentially playing, it looks like Juwan Jennings is going to give it a go for San Fran. Nothing official there just yet. I think they're going to work him out pregame. Other injuries of note. Well, that's basically, obviously we know that we have a 4K quarterback for San Fran. It's Mac Jones. We have DK Metcalf, revenge game, first blood. We got a Super Bowl rematch, Kansas City and Philadelphia. We have the Ben Johnson game, Detroit taking on the Bears. A nice 12-gamer to discuss, to break down. Bobby, how are we feeling about week 2? You want to give me a little bit of an overview? You actually mentioned pre-show. I don't know if you want to tell the people, if you want to confess, because you weren't very proud of it. We were playing a game. We're trying to guess who your most currently, obviously this stuff is fluid and things can change, your most rostered wide receiver is. Maybe the chat can guess too. But you didn't seem thrilled about it, but that's what it was at. And of course, you have the right to change it. But there's reasons why. There are reasons why. What's up, Bobby?
Yeah, what's up? Just talking to Broccoli Boy about his chick. Seeing yeah,
you have to catch up in chat.
Catch up in chat, yeah. I'm playing a lot of Tyreek Hill, unfortunately. But that's where I'm at these days. You gotta buy low, Dean. You gotta buy low. It's mainly my breakdown. Broccoli Boy distracted me.
Bobby, you're easily distracted, you know.
I have bad ADHD, as the chat can tell.
I'm not telling you to do this, but have you ever considered just like not reading the chat? I know. I'm not saying that you should or should not do, but have you ever considered? I mean, just saying, just asking a question.
I'm a man of the people, Dean. Man of the people.
Well, fair enough. You know, Tim's always reading the chat because Tim is always answering questions in the chat. You know, if people are throwing out questions, Tim is a great multitasker. If you have any start-sit questions, he loves those start-sit questions or DFS questions. Tim is generally on top of it when he can get to it, when he can knock things out.
Season long, dynasty league, redraft, all that. Definitely throw that.
You want me to direct all my
dynasty
league questions? Direct it to you.
Yes.
I'm going to hold you to that, Tim. I'm going to hold you to that because I don't believe that's true. I think you're just making stuff up now. You're in 0 dynasty leagues, correct?
I'm in 0. I was, I did. I was in one with Brett. Brett was the commissioner of one that I was in, but I gave away my spot.
For the longest time, Britt was trying to get rid of us. He's like trying to tell people on Twitter, it's a great team. You guys, I'll give you a discount, the 10% discount to buy in. Trying to fill that. What a thankless job. What an incredibly thankless job to be commissioner of such things. Tim, good morning. How are things?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Dean. Always great to see you. Exciting week 2. Week 1, at least for the main slate, was awful for me. Really bricked in quite a few different spots. Luckily, I had a really strong afternoon slate where I almost had like a humongous afternoon slate up until that last Detroit Lions touchdown. That cost me about $18,000.
Oof.
So, yeah.
Did you get to enjoy the victory you had, or you were kind of bummed? It's one of those things.
No, I mean, I still won like 8,000, but
okay.
it could have been like right around 25. So, it's I mean, it's still nice to win, but that kind of stunk. And of course, that was the Tesla TD where it went to review, even though it was like a meaningless TD, and they initially ruled him incomplete. And then they did a review and he caught it, and I was bummed. But still, I mean, it's still a nice hit.
They said that he was going to get more routes, be in the field a little bit more this week. I think he only had 3 routes last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so maybe if he had 7, I guess that's more. I don't know how much more is more, but they did. Obviously, he was pretty hyped up in preseason. Looks legit. Looks like a legit athlete. So I mean, I don't know how much that going to matter for our slate, but just put it in the back of your pocket. I don't know how much you need that as a cheapie. The salary caps is still pretty loose. It's not as loose as it was last week. It's still pretty loose. And then big decision point on this slate, Tim. I want to get your overview on cash games, just an overview. We shouldn't go. We probably spent too much time on it last week. And if there's any questions, obviously, by all means, chat will fire away. And we got 3.5 hours with our co-host coming in as well. But I think one of the big decision points on this slate is, are you going to spend all the way up a quarterback? We actually have legit quarterbacks to spend up on. All the big boys are on the main slate, most of them at least. Lamar and Allen, no Daniels. But we also have Hurts, or you can spend down for a 4K quarterback in a great spot, at New Orleans in a dome, Mac Jones, and really concise, players to package him with as well. Because, CMC, who I'll admit I was scared to play him last week. I played a little bit, but not enough, obviously. Just an overwhelming amount of touches getting delegated his way. And he's one of the last men standing there for San Fran. Jennings, they say, might play. We'll see how limited he may or may not be. Like to kind of keep an eye on that. Kittle, obviously, out for San Fran. Their wide receiver 2 is Jennings, I suppose. But Pearsall, CMC, and Mac Jones makes for an interesting stack. And then you can spend all the way up for quarterback as well. Certainly some guys in the middle as well. But I think that's one of the bigger decision points as far as cash games today. I know that you're a cash game savant. I assume you're playing some cash games. More so in FanDuel, or like for sure. I made a cash game lineup in FanDuel. Like for sure, you spend up for one of the top guys. I ended up with Lamar actually on my main on my cash lineup. But DK, I have yet to build mine officially. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, but I'm curious your thoughts. General overview and cash game. Have you decided? Is it we have the salary for it to spend up for a premium quarterback if you want it? And they seem discounted. There's some discounted receivers out there as well to make stuff work. Discounted tight ends that look pretty legit, at least after 1 week. We're not really sure how fraudulent whatever happened week 1 does not necessarily have to happen week 2. The only thing that happened week 1, by the way, was that I think every game on the main slate, with the exception of Pittsburgh and the Jets, went under. I feel like I heard that. A lot of low-scoring games, and then with the exception, of course, as we all saw, I did not. Pittsburgh and the Jets really got loose. What do you got, Tim?
Yeah, definitely some interesting decisions this week in cash games. I do think I'm going to be playing Mac Jones in cash on DraftKings. FanDuel, you're absolutely right. You're going out to one of those highest end quarterbacks on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I'm playing Mac Jones. He's 4K. The matchup is relatively decent. He's got really, really good, stacking mates, so to speak, which isn't really necessary in cash games. But I mean, I just think that, this is a fair enough price, and there's so much opportunity cost at running back and wide receiver this week that I think the correct play is to go Mac Jones. But if people are looking at their lineups and they're like, you know what, I can go a little bit lower here in my wide receiver 3 spot or something like that, and you want to go up at quarterback, it's probably Lamar at 7K. That game, he's got such amazing rushing upside. Lamar always has a really, really stable floor. So I think it's either Mac Jones or you go all the way up to Lamar. But currently I am Mac Jones. And then the other overarching thought is, I don't know if this week is a 3 RB week. I saw some people in chat, talking about that it's like a 3 RB week. I don't know if that's necessarily true. And I really don't know. Like, I played a ton of 3 RB last week in GPP single entry stuff. I think in single entry, it's not a 3 RB week. Like, yeah, in cash games, it's always a little bit safer to go 3 RBs, but I don't know if it's necessarily that's the play in single entry.
I have seen, Tim, I've seen that tight ends, like 2 tight ends. I've seen those builds.
Ultimals are giving a
like
ton of. I don't know if I necessarily need to go like Fannin and McBride. You know what I'm saying? Like that McBride is getting used a ton in the flex right now in some rejection systems. I don't know if I need to do that, but I just think that wide receiver, like that mid range at wide receiver, is just so loaded. It's an incredibly strong position this week. And I know running back is too, but I think there's a lot of question marks with some of these matchups and some of these running backs outside of, like, obviously CMC and Chase Brown. Like, those 2 are definitely going to be in your cash game shell, Brown and CMC. But the third RB, I don't know if I necessarily love anybody. I know Derrick Henry's in a fantastic spot, but I don't know if I necessarily have to have three RBs.
I'll tell you what I did on FanDuel for my cash lineup, Tim. I said I played Lamar, I got Derrick Henry, and I have Zay Flowers. And you're telling me Baltimore's got a 2019 total. We're playing cash games. Just give me those 4 or 5 touchdowns, as right there, and it's not that difficult to get Lamar and Henry and Flowers. I don't know if that's the correct way to do it, but I'm really praying for no defensive touchdowns. A couple Baltimore defensive touchdowns, and I'm buried, right? Do I think Cleveland can keep up? Probably not. They're pretty big dogs here, obviously, with the biggest dog on the board, 13 points. And it's that's kind of the tricky part as far as Lamar, I think. For tournaments, you can certainly play, Fannin as a run back or something like that if you want to force a run back. I think Njoku is like the ultimate tournament play today, by the way, just sort of throwing that out there because we've already crowned, Fannin's the next guy, but nobody's playing Njoku. I just think it's really interesting. It's probably more of a large field conversation piece, but anything else you want to say? And I CMC, of course, you play CMC in cash games, 100%. Like that's one of those players you just have to have.
Ian, I think Chase Brown.
Yeah, I like him.
I
don't think it's a must, but I like it. I like it. I will say I was on the Pick Six show with Rebar and Dago. Rebar was pointing out, and again, I'm not saying this is 1 week, but less so than last year, Chase Brown was taken off the field for third down. And he's not necessarily historically like this great runner, right? And he was taken off third down for Pirine a lot week 1. I don't know if that's going to change. He was on there for, sometimes, but not as much as he was. You remember the volume last year for Chase Brown was completely bonkers end of the season. He was basically out there for every single snap. I like him. I like him plenty. Probably ends up in my cash game lineup. He's not on my FanDuel one. He may actually, you know what? No, he's not. I don't think he is. I think I ended up with James Conner officially, who I think is somebody else that should be in the player pool.
Just real quick about FanDuel cash, and then we can move on. Tony Pollard is showing up everywhere. I don't know if I like Tony Pollard today in cash games.
He's on my lineup.
He's on your See, I don't know.
He's the guy. He's going to get every touch basically.
I know, but
volume.
I mean, it's
bad matchup.
Yeah, but FanDuel, it's not about volume on FanDuel. Like they're not gonna. It's all about touchdowns, and I don't see how Tennessee's going to score. So that's my issue.
That's fair. It's just the price is too good over there. He's not going to be my DK cash lineup, obviously, but I think the price is really, really appealing. But I agree with your point. I just think the price is kind of too good, and I have not looked to see how many projected touches we're getting for Pollard, but I'd imagine it's around 20. And that's what you want in cash games, right, Tim? You want as many opportunities as possible. Now, not every opportunity is exactly the same, and like you said, we don't think it's a great matchup here versus the Rams, but he's probably going to touch the ball more so than most. And 5.9 is just a really, really good price. But so he's not going to be in your cash game lineup. You're not sure just yet. You're kind of debating.
FanDuel. So I don't actually play cash on FanDuel. I only play cash on DraftKings. But mostly, I think I am going to be fading him on my single entry team. And
I like that call.
I don't see much of a ceiling here for Pollard, which I know you don't need for cash, but I don't know if I necessarily like him today in anywhere on DK or FanDuel.
All right. Bobby, anything you want to say overarching as far as today's slates? A lot to delve into. We're going to do our tiers here in just a second, throw every single team in a tier. Tier 1 is fabulous. Tier 5, we're not interested. You guys know how this works. Got a bunch of teams to fire up. But what are you seeing? Any edges? Anything kind of standing out to you? What are you monitoring as far as team totals today or just totals in general? Jacksonville, Cincinnati, biggest total on the board. We have a couple low ones. Pittsburgh, once again, involved. People are not buying it. 40.5. Last I saw, Seattle and Pittsburgh. The DK Metcalf revenge game. But no insane team totals. Nothing in the 50s. Everything is hovering somewhere in the 40s. What is your general screenshot, your overview of today's slate?
Yeah, there's a lot of condensed usage on the slate. If you go to the San Francisco, New Orleans game, some of these chalkier guys, I would imagine a guy like Puka, Jackson Smith, and Jigba are going to show up well in projections. The 3 tournament games that I like, Buffalo and the Jets, can't figure out how to stack this game up, or if I need a stack for that matter. The other one would be the Pats and the Dolphins. Dolphins gave up the second highest. I mean, Pats gave up the second most deep plays, or just basically, I think it was Trey Tucker had a TD. They also got one at Thorin. So there's opportunity for this Dolphins second most explosive plays. So I like the Dolphins stack a good bit where I think a lot of people are going to be on May. Then the other game that I find pretty interesting is Baltimore and Cleveland. I'm more on the Baltimore side, like the passing game there. So, yeah, pretty much how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when it comes to the tiers, but I do think the most interesting one is New England and Miami. We kind of teased the top of the show. You sort of talked about how Tyreek Hill is your most popular receiver going into the slate and dating back to last season. I don't know, week 5, week 6. When was the last time we saw? We got a new animal, by the way. Normally we get Roscoe the cat.
I don't know if Dean's gonna like this. I heard Dean fades dogs.
I love dogs. Stop
I heard you fade them.
All your propaganda on me, and I'll just let that go. But I do not let it be known that I'm anti-dog. I'm pro-dog. Who are we looking at here, Tim?
This is Toasty.
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 What is the origin story of the name Toasty?
I don't really remember, to be honest with you.
Did you inherit it, or did somebody name the dog Toasty that you're aware of?
No, we named him that.
Toasty. Is this Toasty's first appearance?
I believe it is. He might have been on a show with Blunder one time. I can't remember.
Did he get a word in?
He did not get a word in. That is confirmed correct.
Toasty with a nice big yawn for the people. How many random animals are wondering? Just got to give the people a lay of the land. How many random animals are lurking in the Tim compound?
4 dogs, 3 cats, 5 guinea pigs.
Are we ever going to get a random guinea pig? Just kind of wondering. That's never going to happen, right?
No. The guinea pigs stay in their their shelter there.
They stay in their lane. Toasty, by the way, a big hit in the chat. Hit the like button for Toasty. Look at Toasty, spectacular. He's a good boy for sure. All right, let's knock out the tiers. Again, Bobby threw out some stuff that I wanted to give some takes on. I wanted to see what your guys' opinion is, but we'll just talk about it when we get to the tiers. That's kind of the way we'll be going ahead and doing here going forward. We'll drop the second clue for Superstar Sunday. No winners just yet. Names guessed: LeBron James, A.J. Brown, Jerry Rice, Rob Gronkowski, Floyd Mayweather. Did you guys watch the boxing last night? You guys are both sleeping probably. George Foreman. It's not.
They still have boxing on TV?
It was actually on Netflix. Are we calling that? It was on the Netflix.
Okay.
But right. It was a big event apparently. Yeah. The second clue.
I heard Terrence Crawford look good for what it's worth.
Oh, you watched it? Look at you, Bobby.
No, I didn't watch it. I heard he looked good on Instagram.
That's my source for boxing analysis. I go straight to Instagram. So,
well, it was like an interview of
Max
Canelo saying he's better than Floyd Mayweather, so I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm not the boxing guy. I have no idea. But shout out to Canelo is toast apparently. Canelo lost last night, but I know about those names, but I don't know both those guys in their prime. I feel like they're not, but I don't know. I would just be talking out the caboose. All right, clue number 2 is hurt. So champion and hurt are the first 2 clues. Get in that Discord, get yourself a week free of RG Premium. So today's tier category that you guys are not aware of, but today's tier category, so you guys can play along with the audience, play along with chat, and let me know. I power ranked today's. I shouldn't say today's. I just power ranked NFL nicknames, not the teams, not like Purple People Eaters or whatever. Actual player NFL nicknames, and tell me the best and the worst of NFL player nicknames. Willis Reed, Frank Thomas, guest is coming in here as far as the live stream chat for. By the way, RotoGrinders.com/Discord live stream chat channel. That's where you tell me the answer to Superstar Sunday. Let me know in chat. And Tim, Bobby, you guys have anybody off the dome? Your best nickname for an NFL player, or the worst? You can go either route. Anything kind of come to you, Tim?
I'm thinking for best, either Sweetness or Prime Time. Those are the first 2. Although, I don't know. I also really liked the Boss. I like
Boss is pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna go Boss as my number 1. I'm gonna go Boss.
Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
Bobby. Sorry to keep you from your phone.
The GOAT. Tom Brady. The GOAT.
Tom Brady, just Tom Brady. Is he nicknamed the GOAT? Is that like an official nickname?
Is that his official nickname?
I don't know if that's his nickname. That's his nickname?
I don't know.
Well, Sweetness is good.
Yeah, Walter Payton, of course, Man of the Year award. Shout out to Walter. The chat does have actually has my number 1. My guy J3 does have my number 1 on the board. Tony is saying Christian Okoye. You got to be of a certain age to know Christian Okoye. Of course, he was on Nigerian Nightmare. Bree saying Mean Joe Green. I always thought that was unfair, because I think Mean Joe Green, I don't even know he's mean. It just rhymes. I don't know if it's actually true. He could be like a pleasant person, but just because his last name is Green, people assume He is mean. But this is the board I came up there, boys. Calvin Johnson, Megatron is just spectacular. Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch. Got Danny Dimes in the middle. It's a spectacular nickname. I just don't know if Daniel Jones is worthy of it. That's why I got him in the middle. Like, it's a great nickname. But last week, week 1, you're only as good as your last performance. He was completely worthy, justifiable. Call the dude Danny Dimes, call him everything. Call him like a Slate winner. But will he be that going forward? Maybe not. And then, Booger. I just wanted to get you guys to say Booger the entire show. So that's why Booger McFarlane is in. Everybody, Anthony McFarlane. That's not actually his real name. I think his mom was. I was doing a little research on this. This is the kind of stuff I dive into pre-show. I guess he wasn't the best kid, and that's what his mom would call him. I think it was his mom would call him that. She nicknamed him Booger, and it stuck. And then, of course, Russ Wilson. You can't give yourself a nickname. I think it was kind of sort of tongue-in-cheek, but he likes to call himself Mr. Unlimited. And at this point, if there's one thing Russ is not, and if you watch Russ Wilson in 2025, he's not unlimited. So he is my tier 5 nickname. All right. Mr. Very Limited, TJ's telling us. But okay, let's dive in and let's throw these teams in some tiers. The first game we're going to talk about, we're going to go back and forth. Bobby, you're going to start us off, and Tim's going to retort. If you want to change it, by all means, we'll change it. I'm the official judge, but sometimes I'll yield power to TJ. So TJ's got to pay attention in some capacity as well. Okay, first game. Well, this is the one that's interesting, Bobby. It's New England, the Patriots at Miami. 43.5 is the total. The Dolphins, I'm told they're the worst team in the history of football. They might be. However, they're actually favored to win a football game today, despite their performance last week. They're 1.5-point favorites versus your Patriots. Talk to me about New England and Miami, Bobby.
Yeah, I'm going to put Miami in beast mode and New England in Megatron. New England for one, Kayshon Boutte, Hunter Henry. I think those guys stand out the most in terms of air yards. Kayshon Boutte was up there for as the most. He received the most as a Patriots receiver last week. So interested in him. I think it's a great spot for Henry. I like the run backs, Tyreek, Achane, Waddle. It's pretty condensed. On the Dolphins side, like I said, second most explosive plays given up by New England last week. You have two very explosive players in Achane and Tyreek Hill. You could throw Waddle in the mix there too. So I'm pretty interested in both of these teams. I think the majority of the field is going to go to the Patriots, but I do like the Tua side as well.
Yeah, it's weird because projections are going to like some of this Miami stuff. I have to say this as a Floridian. I'm not that far from the stadium, half hour or so. This time of year, the humidity. I didn't go outside today. Who goes outside? But if I went outside, I would imagine the humidity smacked me in the face in some ways. It's really, really tough to play in Miami. First month of the season, they're spectacular at home. Of course, they have the home field advantage that most every other team doesn't have, not just humidity, that the opposing team, the players are not ready for, and it's really going to hit them in the second half. They also throw you in the sun. On the sidelines, you're in the sun. Miami is in the shade, and they also force you to wear your dark uniforms. I haven't seen that confirmed yet, but Miami essentially always wears their home whites for that reason. Tim, this is a really ambitious ranking of New England and Miami. Like, I understand what Bobby's doing, but you tell me, do we agree? Do you disagree? You want to pitch me something different?
I think this game is really, really strong for GPPs. I would just bring down New England down to the beast mode. So I think that they're both beast mode tier teams. I think this game is just super, super stackable. You're not going to be playing into a ton of ownership no matter which way you go. I love the Boutte call. I love the Hunter Henry call.
You love the Boutte call. Just want to make sure.
Boutte call. I do love the Boutte call.
Mary Van, I'm not judging.
I know. And then so like a May double with like an Achane or like a Hill run back, I think is a really, really strong play today. So I do like both these teams quite a bit.
TJ is going to clip that. That's going out in socials as we speak, Tim. So you might want to send a text just in case. You know what,
she's
Tim?
She's gonna be so happy that I put Toasty on the program.
Just put that out there for social.
It doesn't matter what I do after that.
I do agree with Tim. I agree with Bobby that this game's really interesting for tournaments, and it could fall on its face, but it also can get loose. I think Hunter Henry's a really interesting piece. Booty as well seems like the number one. Diggs doesn't seem like he's quite ready coming back from his injury. He's over 30. Pump the brakes a little bit. And I don't know what to do with Tyreek, but we saw him complaining week 1. We see him, just kind of a wreck. But in theory, that speed is still there. Gonzalez being out for New England. Miami's missing the right half of their line. The blind side for Tua. The tackle and the guard are both done so for the next. They're both on IR. It could be such a mess, but it also could get loose. But officially, Tim gets the point. Let's move them both down to beast mode. TJ, I don't know if it's me, but I'm not seeing these logos very good. Is it the white? Can we make that a white background possibly? Or you guys see? You guys see this as well, Tim, Bobby?
The Patriots one doesn't look great for me. I can see the Miami one fine. Yeah,
it's just that I feel like looks a little bit different, but I'm not here to complain. I can make it out, but it just looks a little bit funky. Okay, official point for Tim. Oh, here we go. I think this is going to look a lot better. That looks a lot better. Thank you, TJ. At least for me. Did that improve anybody else? Or is that was just me maybe? Okay. Jaguars, Bengals, 49.5. This is the big boy total on the board, Tim. It's got to work its way up throughout the week. Almost 50. It's the highest total that we have. I mean, this is one thing I did get right last week. The Trevor Lawrence thing I've heard for 5 years. He is completely fetch. And maybe this is the week. Maybe he gets loose this week. This is the matchup, of course. They talk about Brian Thomas probably getting more stuff thrown his way. He did get kind of bailed out on a rushing touchdown. But, this looks like one of the most appealing environments, Tim. You tell me, Jacksonville and Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most DFS-friendly game on the board. I think that I'm going to put Jacksonville on the beast mode, and then I'm going to go Cincinnati and Megatron. It's just I fell into the Lawrence trap last week. It was a really, really bad play by me, and I played into a ton of ownership. Like, I didn't think that the gap between Lawrence and Danny Dimes is going to be so great, but it really was, and it was a really bad play by me. So yeah, I'm not going to fall into that trap again. I do like some of the, I do obviously like Hunter. I do like Thomas. ETN is fantastic as well. And then, there are numerous Cincinnati pieces that you could really play today. I think Chase Brown is like a staple in any format today. And obviously, Burrow, Higgins, Burrow, Chase are all smash plays. So yeah, the Bengals are a clear Megatron play.
Some guesses coming in here for today's Superstar Sunday. It's not Matthew Tkachuk. I should make it Matthew Tkachuk. He is a superstar. The Panthers, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion. It's not Kerry Strug either, or Odell Beckham. I like that purple, TJ. That's a good choice. That's popping for sure. The Jags logo, they all look pretty sharp there. What do you say here, Bobby? We have the Bengals and Megatron, the Jags in beast mode. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lose this one again. I like the Bengals, obviously. Burrow Chase, I think, is a great play. I think T. Higgins is great along with that. I don't love Chase Brown. I don't think he was terribly efficient last week, but people are going to play him as chalk. He'll probably be someone I'm under in tournaments. In terms of Jacksonville, I do not love Trevor Lawrence. It's just, it is what it is with Lawrence. I think Hunter is going to be on Chase a good bit of the time. They're going to try to use, it's just hard to stack up Jacksonville. I actually think the best play from Jacksonville is probably Travis Etienne. I'm going to put Jacksonville and Danny Dimes. I do like Strange and BTJ. Just really hard to stack up this team. Trevor Lawrence really hasn't gone over 300 yards enough in his career to really warrant. I know Liam Cohen's there now, but I still just want to see him be able to make the transition from an average QB to an elite QB, and he just hasn't done that yet. So I'm going to put Jacksonville and Danny Dimes.
Did you like Cincinnati and Megatron? Did you confirm that?
Cincinnati's fine in Megatron, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of torn because I like the individual pieces. I like Etienne. I like Thomas. I think Strange is a good tight end option as far as the cheapies, especially if he's going to come in lower owned than something like Fannin, essentially the same price. I just don't like building around T-Law, and it just I have to see it consistently. But this is the spot, right? He's got the pieces, but I'm going to against my instinct. I'm going to agree with Bobby. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Bobby here. Let's keep the Jags.
Yeah, in terms of stacking, you guys are probably right. I was thinking more of like individual plays. In terms of stacking, it's better to put them in the Danny Dimes tier, just because the plays as a stack I don't really like that much, but there are some, I think, really strong individual plays.
Bobby, you're getting the Browns and the Ravens. You talked earlier how much you like the Ravens. The Ravens' biggest team total on the board, pushing 29. They're monster favorites here versus Cleveland. Can Cleveland catch up? Can they stick with them? We saw a breakout game potentially from Harold Fannin, or maybe he just kind of disappears. But, it makes sense. They would run out two tight ends, Njoku and Fannin, when they're, receiving options after Judy and Tillman falls off really, really quickly. Thrash and Bond and players you probably have no interest in. Judkins expected to be back, but in a very limited role, just kind of mucked up there as far as the running backs. And I guess there are some receiving backs there, but, a 16, 17-point total on the road here in Baltimore. You can tell yourself a story. The game might stay close. The tricky part with Baltimore is just, monster total, but are they just going to chill? They're going to go in cruise control basically the second half of the game. We shall see. Bobby, Baltimore and Cleveland.
Yeah, Ravens might be my favorite stack on the slate, paying up at quarterback when I think a lot of people are going to go down to Mac Jones in that San Fran New Orleans game. I love Zay Flowers. It's a great matchup for him. I also think guys like Bateman and Andrews could have pretty good games if Cleveland is able to stay close. Derrick Henry is someone I'm not getting to, mainly because of the price. When I have McCaffrey at 7,500 and then Derrick Henry at 82, it just doesn't seem like I need to get to Henry, but Henry's a fine tournament play. I really like Lamar doubles in this game, in this matchup. Flacco, I'm going to put them in Booger. I don't think Harold Fannin is good chalk. I would rather play Njoku. Say they get behind and go to 11 personnel, and Njoku's probably going to be the one that gets on the field the majority of the time. So I think Harold Fannin for me is someone I'm going to be under on. I'll probably be over on Njoku or just flip-flop their ownership. I think Cedric Tillman's a good way to leverage a lot of Hollywood Brown ownership. They're in a similar price range. So if you do like Flacco doubles with Njoku and Tillman, I think it make a lot of sense. And I like Tillman more than Judy in this game. So, yeah, that's where I have these guys.
All right, Tim. Baltimore, we got them in tier 1 with Megatron. We have Cleveland and Booger. Agree, disagree, any issues, anything you want to add?
I think I would put Baltimore down a tier to beast mode. I'm just a little bit concerned this is going to turn into the Derrick Henry show, and the stack isn't going to get there. That's my only thing. So I'm just going to bring them down one tier. This is obviously a fantastic spot. I think getting to some Cleveland on the other side is completely a pretty strong play as well. I mean, Flacco is going to have to throw a ton here. At least I assume he's going to have to throw a ton. So getting to some of his passing weapons, I think, is completely fine. I kind of like Fannin today, but I understand Bobby's theory. He's going to get super steamed in ownership. So I can see fading for ownership purposes. But yeah, I think I'm fine with Cleveland in the Booger tier.
All right, I'm taking a peek at our ownership stuff. I'm going to rule out, let's see, who's the most popular player on the board? CMC is what I'm seeing, but let me see, tight end wise, I'm pretty sure it is going to be Fannin. This is DK specific. Yeah, we have him as the most popular tight end, or spend all the way up for McBride, but the default cheapie is Fannin. I don't know if he's good chalk or bad chalk, but I do think
there are some really strong plays in that 3 to 4K range at tight end. So it's not like if you fade him, I think it's really contest dependent too. So I think in the milli it might be bad, but I think in some other contest types it's okay.
But in the single entry stuff, people are going to default to Fannin, I think, right? And a lot of times people throw in their cash line up there as well. So I think it's going to be more than 15, 20% or so. And there's definitely some interesting pivots. I'm trying to think of some of the options we can consider. It's not exactly the same price. We talked about Strange. Johnson for New Orleans. If you're looking for a run back, he had basically every snap there. He could have really been a hero last week if he scored that touchdown at the end of the game. Tough catch, but did not quite make it. You want to spend a little more for Hunter Henry. I think he's pretty interesting. I think Njoku is a really interesting pivot as well. I feel like you're probably supposed to not play him or play him less than the field.
I'm getting to more Strange than I am fan in at SimLabs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Strange is a much better play than Fannin for what it's worth.
Yeah. Since you have it open, Tim, is there anything else that is worth pointing out, or if anything comes up organically as far as the teams? By all means, share the SimLabs stuff. Do you see? Is there any other big discrepancy that you noticed? Kind of running some stuff. Anything sort
Surprise.
of for you?
Well, first thing that I noticed, just looking at my player exposures. Now, granted, I didn't add any bells and whistles to it. This is a very generic run, but yeah. I was surprised to see how much Malik Neighbors I got to.
Okay.
That he's popping quite a bit. I was kind of surprised to see that. Again, getting to more Trevor Lawrence than I'm comfortable with. Maybe I'm just jaded from last week. Maybe I'm just overall, I feel kind of like I really failed last week with Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to go back to him. Other than that, though, I don't think there's anything glaring other than getting to a lot of Grant Galcanterra as another tight end pivot. Yeah,
is he 2.5?
I
haven't considered him.
Yeah, he's 2,500. So I mean, that's the whole case against Fannin is that I think there are some really capable players that you can pivot away from Fannin on.
Goddard expected to be out. Calcaterra is 2.5. I mean, I don't know how much he's going to get, but that's if you need somebody 2.5, I guess he's the guy. But we've seen it before where he's had opportunity and didn't quite get there. By the way, I did agree with Bobby here. So Baltimore, TJ, I think we should put Baltimore back in Megatron. Bobby's up 2-1.
I just want to reference one thing with the Harold Fannin thing quick about
go for it.
I don't know that he's necessarily bad chalk based on he didn't just play tight end 2 last week. So even if they run more 11 personnel, getting these numbers from our guy Rich Rebar in Sharp Football Analysis is stats, but he played 16 snaps in the slot. He played 6 snaps at wide receiver. He played 3 snaps in the backfield and 1 at QB. And so he's also their wide receiver 3. And so even if they play 11 personnel, he's still on the field.
Yeah. Because they have so few options around the field. They just kind of throw them all over the place. That's worth pointing out. And they play Njoku and Fannin together a ton, at least they did week 1. And you got to expect that will be the case going forward. Okay, let's drop that third clue. We have no winners just yet for today's. It's a Superstar Sunday. It's not Terrell Davis. There are other options dropping here in the live stream chat channel. Get yourself week free of RG Premium. The third clue might get you there. Maybe it'll get you there. Champion hurt. That's the first 2 clues. Clue number 3 for today's Superstar Sunday. It is Mile. Mile is the third clue. Champion, hurt, and Mile. All right. Bobby is ahead 2-1 right now. Tim, you mentioned the Giants. You mentioned Neighbors. Here we go. Giants, Cowboys, 44.5 is the total. Dallas is a 4.5-point favorite. Talk to me about Neighbors. Talk to me about Lamb, who had a rough game 1. Lots of drops. Dak looked great. He looked really, really good. Just his teammates weren't quite picking him up. We saw Javonte Williams get in the box a couple times. Not necessarily a fun click, but scoring helps. It looks like it's pretty clear as far as the runway for him. And also a healthy scratch for Blue. We'll see if how that goes down today, how much that matters. Sanders, as of right now, looks like the backup for Dallas. Tim, Giants, Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't see how you can really stack the Giants. So, I mean, in terms of stacking, I'm going to put the Giants in Mr. Unlimited. I guess Malik Neighbors is completely fine as a one-off, but that would honestly be the only piece of this game that I'd want. If you want to stack the Cowboys and not have a run back, I think that's completely fine. And I think there's multiple ways that you can stack the Cowboys. So I think I'm going to put Dallas in beast mode. I really like getting to Dak doubles. I think that's a completely fine play. I don't really like to give betting takes, but I think the Cowboys are going to cover the spread. So, I really don't even want to play Malik Neighbors as a one-off. So I think you could play 2 to 3 Dallas players here and not have a run back.
All right. So you got the Giants in Mr. Unlimited, and you have the Cowboys in beast mode. Bobby, what say you?
Time to block. I'm going to have the Dallas Cowboys in beast mode and Giants in Mr. Unlimited. I get the lead. I get the lead.
It's good defense. You're parking the bus.
Good defense. I love Dak doubles. CD would be my first pairing, obviously, but Pickens is definitely in consideration there as well. Make a case for Ferguson. Would prefer CD and Pickens, though. In terms of the Giants, it seems like the Cowboys are going to keep everything in front of them. So it would really you would have to double Wilson if you were to double this stack, but it would be more Neighbors in Wandale if he's in, because I feel like they would get the majority of stuff that's pretty much underneath. You could throw Theo Johnson in the mix, but I have no interest in the Giants today from a stack perspective.
I do like.
Are you getting to a lot of Neighbors, Bobby?
I am not currently, but that could change as we get closer to lock. You said he was hitting in Sims a bunch, but I feel like you do. Like, I just don't think I'm worried that they won't be able to push back in this Dallas.
That's what I'm worried about. I don't see how. I mean, I just don't think Neighbors is going to win you a GPP today.
I need to grab my charger real quick. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Bobby playing defense over there. I do agree. And I just love that the Giants and Russ Wilson, of course, ended up in the Mr. Unlimited tier. That just kind of works out perfectly for us. The next game up. The next game up is actually Bobby's. So let me just go ahead and kill some time and take a peek at the Discord channel. Again, you can get yourself a week free of RG Premium. Just tell me what superstar I am talking about. It's not John Elway or Usain Bolt or Jesse Owens or Peyton Manning or Myles Garrett. None of them. TJ is showing the people, if you want to get access to a fabulous deal this year, you get more bang for your buck with Combo Pro. Limited time, you get your first month of Combo Pro. It's just $79.99. That is just $5 more than the NFL DFS monthly sub. And you also get all the other sports. You see the sports right there. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, golf, MMA, PGA. There's a joystick, which tells me that's either CSGO or LOL. I still never know this. I know Tim does projections for at least one of them. But there you go. Get yourself a week free. Check out the link.
Imagine putting college football over NHL on that ad.
Embarrassing. It's insulting. Do they not know the Florida Panthers are two-time NBA champions?
We don't need to talk about the Panthers, but still, just in general.
You're still upset about who was the player that for the Bruins, your team, that got traded midseason?
Marchand.
Yeah. Oh, I remember his name, Tim. You know I remember his name. I just wanted
that guy.
Yeah. Shout outs to Marchand. All right, Bobby, you are up next. You're up 2-1 here on the board. We have a slew of games still to talk about. It's the Rams and the Titans. 41.5 is the total. LA, I'm told, they tell me, it's never in the history of football has a team gone from the West Coast to the East Coast, played at 1 o'clock, and won a football game. This might be the first time it ever happens in the history of football. The Rams at the Titans, they are 5-point favorites here. Bobby, how do you see the Rams and the Titans?
I think both the Rams and the Titans are going to go in Danny Dimes for me. They are super condensed, both teams, so it may be a low ranking. But Puka, Devontae, Stafford, I think that's a great stack. I think Higbee, someone people won't get to at the tight end position, and I'm just wondering what his price is now. What's his price? Anyone know?
3-1.
3,100.
Yeah.
Well,
he's exactly a pivot right off our guy, right?
He looks like a pretty good pivot off of Harold Fannin. Same price tag there. I don't know. It's just Stafford. Like, he's not mobile. It's really tough for him. Well, he can throw for 300, and Adams is probably at this point, more efficient than Kupp was last year. So I'll have Stafford doubles, but I don't love it. I think the Cam Ward side, you have Calvin Ridley and Chig, and that's pretty much it. They're just going up against a really tough defense. But yeah, Danny Dimes for both of these teams for me.
Tim?
I'm going to put the Titans in the booger tier. It's really there's really no stacking on this team that I feel comfortable with. Like I get that Pollard's going to get his touches, but I just think this is a really good spot for the Rams defense. So that's the only difference that I would make, is that I'm going to go to Titans a little bit lower.
It's tricky how to answer these questions because we're talking stacks, and I'm not playing any Stafford or Cam Ward at all. Like, I'm just not doing it.
Right.
And Stafford, the deal with Stafford, he's got to get 303. He has to do it. I prefer him at home in the Dome. This is one of the lower totals on the board. Ward, he had a few throws that I saw look pretty good against Denver. Just a really, really tough ask to do things. Your first game ever against Denver in Mile High. And he wasn't really getting cooperation from Calvin Ridley, who had a couple drops. I love the Ridley price, so I like pieces in this game, but I don't really like the stacks because there's no chance I'm playing Ward or Stafford. But I am playing some Pollard. I like Ridley a good bit, actually, just for the price. I think he's too cheap.
I like Kyron too for the price. It's $6,300.
I don't have any. I don't think he's popping in some kind of strange way, and he doesn't catch the ball.
Well, the spread indicates a Kyron game, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. You like the running backs when you're 4 or 5 point favorites,
especially Kyron.
Yeah, because he's a guy that could, it's not kind of like the Derrick Henry thing. If you're down by 2 touchdowns, Henry, obviously he's so much better when they're ahead. It's true with most running backs, but very true with those guys. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I'm playing Kyron. I like other players around him more. Io Manor, by the way, I just want to throw it out there. He's interesting if you need like a 3K dart. I think you could do a lot worse. If you're looking for somebody 3-2 or less, he looks playable, but I don't know how much you need that. I say all this to say that I guess I agree. My takes aren't big enough. I guess I'll just agree with where they're originally set with Bobby. So we have a defensive struggle here. We'll keep the Rams and Dimes, but I'm also not stacking the Rams. But Puka's great. Obviously, you can play Adams. All right, let's scoot along. It's Buffalo and the Jets. It's 47.5 as far as the total. Buffalo spectacular comeback versus Baltimore. They had an incredible amount of plays too. They must have had 80 snaps or so offensively. The Jets, Justin Fields looked great. He looked great, and Breece Hall looked pretty good as well. And the Bills are really vulnerable to the run. Tim, this is your board: Buffalo and New York.
So this is a really, really interesting game for GPPs because obviously there's a lot to like about Josh Allen. He has just electric upside each and every time he touches the field. I really like Breece Hall in this spot, 6,200. He's going to be under 10% owned, I would imagine. So I do like Breece Hall quite a bit. We can go back to Garrett Wilson. I don't know if I want to chase Justin Fields. I was so bearish on him last week. I don't know if I can really get to him this week. But if people want to, stack this game up, I think it's a pretty strong stack. I'm really just debating what I'm going to want to do with the Bills, because the Bills are kind of like a harder stack. Like Josh Allen by himself is fantastic. I don't really know who I want to pair him with though. So that kind of brings down him down a tier for me. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to put both. I think I'm going to put Buffalo in beast mode and Jets and Danny Dimes, but I don't know. I kind of want to put both in beast mode. I'll put both in beast mode.
All right, Bobby, how do we see it?
Nothing like a little bit of defense again here. Jets. I think Buffalo, just on the ground, they're going to get gashed by Breece. They also give up a good bit of passing yards to the running back. So I like Breece a lot in this game. I don't know what to do with Garrett Wilson, but the usage just seems to be so high. that he would be my first pair with Justin Fields. In terms of Buffalo,
And only, right? And only, you said first. Is there
and
anyone else
only,
you pair with
he
him?
would be my only, yeah. But I do think so. Like, I wanted to make a case to play both Fields and Brees together in a stack.
Okay.
But I just don't think that's doable with the amount of running backs that the Jets are using currently behind Brees. For cash games, I actually do think Brees is at 6,200 is a better play than Chase Brown, even though those other running backs are there. But just because of the matchup, getting $400 savings, I would imagine. With Buffalo, a lot of people are going to go to Keon Coleman. I think Joshua Palmer's the guy. He's been the man beater everywhere he's pretty much been, or man coverage is what he excels at. So I don't mind getting to Palmer when I think Sauce might be on Keon Coleman. I feel like you don't have to stack either of these QBs either, but this game environment is so good. Like you could play Josh Allen and then have Josh Allen and then have Brees Hall as a run back.
I made that lineup last night.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
I do think that the Jets make for a better stack than Buffalo, because I feel like we know what the Jets are going to be doing here. Whereas Buffalo, it's a little bit more of a mystery. And you really can't play James Cook either. So if anything, I would bring Buffalo down one, but they're both really strong.
Yeah, I'm most likely to play this like a la carte pieces, right? Basically Fields and possibly nobody else in the game, and Allen either nobody or Brees Hall. Certainly you can pair Allen with Coleman. I guess Shakir. If I'm going to pick one, it would be Coleman over Shakir for me. I did want to note, like, I'm just afraid that the Jets. What do the Jets want to do? They want to run the ball down your throat. I'm just afraid the Jets are going to have like a 14 play, 12-minute, 7 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, just running it down. And now they're not Baltimore, obviously, but we saw Baltimore just gash the Bills, and they just could not stop the run. And the other thing I noted was that Derek Carty, shout out Derek Carty in the blitz.
How did Josh Allen do in that game though?
Well, I mean, he was in Superman mode in the fourth quarter, but like Coleman didn't do anything until the fourth quarter. If Derrick Henry doesn't fumble the ball, Josh Allen's the ball Buffalo falls in their face. So if you want to play the result,
though.
No, but Superman needed a fumble. If there was no fumble, there's no Superman, right? That opened the gates. If that didn't happen, game's over, and everybody falls in their face. And Coleman's worthless. But yeah, certainly the opportunity is there. And I'm not here to tell you can't play Josh Allen. I hope that's not the message you're hearing. But the other thing I wanted to say is that we're expected the least amount of plays according to the blitz in this game. And the Jets just want to kill that clock and have 10-minute drives. And then the worst thing is to sit there with Josh Allen on the bench and just like touches the ball maybe for one series in the first quarter or something like that. Just throwing that one out there. Okay, Bears, Lions, 46.5 is the total. The Lions are 6-point favorites. They're home now against Chicago. Do want to get that fourth clue out there as well. The fourth clue is Trojan. Superstar Sunday, champion, hurt, mile, Trojan. That's your four clues. It's not Shannon Sharp or Adrian Peterson or Jim Ruin. A lot of guesses coming in here in the live stream chat channel. Get yourself a week free of RG Premium. How do you guess? How do you get the week free of RG Premium? You get in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, live stream chat. It is not Reggie Bush getting guessed right now. Okay. Bobby, it is your board. You cannot play defense. You got to play offense. Where are you putting Detroit and Chicago?
Oh, I like Detroit a lot. We got a lot of teams in beast mode, huh? I'm going to go Detroit. I'm going to put them in Megatron. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's a very interesting pivot off of McCaffrey. McCaffrey's going to be tremendous chalk. I think McCaffrey's a good play. But if the left tackle is out, it might bump down my exposure to McCaffrey a little bit. I will say this. Detroit Goff doubles aren't going to be played. Goff is a much better QB at home. I think it bodes well for both Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta and Jameson. It's just a matter of like figuring these guys out. I like Gibbs and Amon-Ra. They would be my favorite stack pairings with Goff. Goff's going to be significantly low owned, and I like the run back of Rome Odunze in the slot. I think that's where you can attack the Lions, and it's also the receiver that Ben Johnson, the receiver position in Ben Johnson's offense that usually accumulates the most fantasy points. So I really love Rome. The Bears would go on Danny Dimes for me. Just be really Caleb, Odunze, and one of more, Zacchaeus or Swift. They'd definitely be doubles though.
So you got Chicago and Danny Dimes, Detroit and Megatron. Tim, what say you? Confirm? Deny?
I would bring Detroit down to beast mode, but it's really close. I'm fine with Chicago in the Danny Dimes tier. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs as like a pivot away from CMC and tournament builds.
Same.
We're currently showing Jahmyr with around 15% projected ownership. I'm wondering if that's even going to be on the high end of the range. So I like Jahmyr quite a bit just because he's hanging around that same CMC price tier. He's going to get a lot of targets. I do agree with Bobby that I expect a big rebound here by Detroit. They looked terrible last week at Lambeau, but this is at home. Goff plays a lot better at home, so I do think that Detroit's going to do well. But I think the reason why I don't want to have their Megatron is because I'm more looking at Gibbs versus the wide receiving core.
I am going to agree with Tim. I want to move Detroit down.
Can we just throw every team in beast mode now?
Well, I think the slate is kind of wide open.
We got to get Buffalo out of beast mode.
Were they voted out of beast mode? I don't recall.
No, but I'm just saying that I don't think they belong in beast mode
because they belong in Megatron.
No. Well, TJ is going to be on later, and he'll tell you why you're supposed to play Buffalo, and I like a healthy disagreement. That's good. But, I'm going to agree with Tim. Officially, we are tied at 1, just for the record. I'm sorry, we're tied at 2. It is 2-2. Taking a peek at the Discord channel. It's not Nikola Jokic. It's not Jalen Hurts. It's not Marcus Allen. Okay, so it is Superstar Sunday, and I appreciate the guesses. But Rudy Rudiger, while he was feisty, not a superstar. Rudy Rudiger played maybe one play, at Notre Dame, allegedly, and the story was kind of fudged. Not a superstar. Neither is Ed McCaffrey, also not a superstar. Troy Polamalu, not him. It's not DeMarcus Ware. But we're going to get there. We're going to get a winner soon enough. 2-2. Let's move on. It's Seattle and Pittsburgh. 40.5. 40.5 is the total. We got DK Metcalf and all his revenge. Pittsburgh offense was looking spectacular last week. We saw a lot of Kenneth Gainwell. We saw very little Caleb Johnson. Seattle, when they threw the ball to JSN. And basically that's it. And like I already suspected, it seems like, not official, but we saw Toasty earlier in the show. This might be Cooper Kupp might be toast. We'll see. The board now goes to, I think, Tim, right? Seattle and Pittsburgh. Where do we want to throw these teams?
This one's really easy for me. I'm just going to put them both in Mr. Unlimited. Outside of JSN on the Seattle side, who I love JSN in all formats, cash games included, whatever format GPP you're in. I love JSN, but I don't want to pair him with Sam Darnold. So they have an 18-point team total. So I think Seattle, in terms of stack, is bottom tier. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Outside of DK Metcalf, I have no interest in Pittsburgh. So I'm just going to go bottom tier for them as well.
Bobby, both teams hanging out, Mr. Unlimited. What do you got?
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to double Darnold. So I don't know who else I'd double him with. It's going to be Mr. Unlimited for Seattle because his only weapon seems to be JSN. With Pittsburgh, I'm going to put them in Booger. I just think it's super condensed. It's DK. It's Calvin Austin. The one issue is the tight ends, right? Jonnu and Freiermuth. They both grade out well from a DVP matchup. Just pick your favorite one, I guess. We've seen the Steelers game go off last week. If Rodgers is going to do it, he's going to have to throw a couple touchdowns. So I don't know. I don't see why he can't throw 3 TDs in this game. So at his price tag, like it's a tough stack to swallow if you're going to play it, but I think there's some viability to it, not much.
I'm going to lean with Tim here. Pittsburgh's got to get thrown back down, Mr. Limited, Bobby. You're talking about Calvin Austin and what deciding between Jonnu and
Calvin
Smith.
Austin was great this week. Calvin Austin was great last week.
Is he? Is he a great choice this week? Rodgers was great week one. And I think I might play a little DK. Rodgers seems like the kind of guy that's going to get the revenge touchdown for DK. He's going to force that. So I like Metcalf a little bit, but there's just no chance I'm stacking Pittsburgh. And maybe I'll be wrong. This is once again the lowest total of the board. And we saw what happened last week. I stuck my nose up at it. And the Seattle side, I agree. It's just the split between Walker and Charbonnet is uncomfortable right now. JSN certainly interesting, but maybe just run those two receivers at each other. That's about as ambitious as I'm going to get in this game. So Tim takes the lead. It's 3-2. Bobby, we have San Fran and the Saints, 40.5. This is where totals can kind of sort of somewhat lie to you because San Fran looks really interesting because pricing. Guess what? We live in the world of a salary cap. Mac Jones is 4K on DK, 6K on FanDuel. I think that's more extreme as far as the salaries, the 4K on DK. CMC got loose and is his upside is immense in the dome here. Love him here on the turf. We're expecting, it looks like Jennings is going to play. Get a confirmation, actives and actives coming in at 11:30. Next show following us will confirm and deny. You mentioned Trent Williams. He's another guy, the offensive lineman. They're going to be working him out pre-show, pre-game. We'll see if he gives it a go. Certainly a big upgrade to their offense if he's able to go. No Kittle if you missed that one as well. A pretty good prices on our side as far as Olave and Rashid and even Juwan Johnson. So I don't mind the run backs on the Saints. It's Bobby's board. San Fran and the Saints. What do you got?
San Fran, Megatron, super condensed, McCaffrey, Pearsall, Juwan Jennings is there, but it's really McCaffrey and Pearsall for me. Mac Jones is 4K. I like the run back opportunities too because it's also condensed on that side. I think Olave would be my favorite. The Saints are going to go in beast mode for me. The Saints are going to go in Danny Dimes for me. My fault. I think they're condensed enough. Rattler would be like the pivot off of Mac Jones. I think Olave's the play there. And then you have Juwan Johnson, who could be the pivot off of Fannin in your tight end spot. Played 100% of the snaps. I'm pretty sure Olave was up there in terms of snap total as well. I do not like Kamara. So it's literally just Rattler, Olave, and Juwan Johnson for me. They're going to go on Danny Dimes.
All right, Tim, we have San Fran in Megatron. New Orleans right in the middle of Danny Dimes. What do you got?
I'm really in line with Bobby here. I don't mind San Fran and Megatron. They're super condensed. Ricky Pearsall, I think, is just fantastic. He's not popping in some optimals, which I was surprised by. I thought he would be like a cash game staple, but he's pretty close. That mid range and wide receiver is really, really strong. But in GBPs, I really do like the stack. CMC, Pearsall. I think Juwan Jennings in large field stuff is a really, really interesting pivot off of Pearsall, or you could just play a Jones double, maybe without CMC, something like that. I think there's some interesting ways to build into this game. New Orleans is fine in the middle tier. Danny Dimes. Chris Olave would be my favorite play, but the thing is, I know we can never really bet on injuries, but he took 4 trips to the medical tent last week. He's just
Hit the over, man.
Because under 5K for Chris Olave, I think is a really, really strong play. I'm just a little bit, as a single entry player, just a little bit nervous. And then of course Juwan Johnson, I think he's a pretty strong pivot from the Fannin chalk. So there are some plays to be had on the Saints. So I think Saints and Danny Dimes is fine.
All right. Entering the 4:00 games, they didn't get it right. You can't even get the quad box. There's only 3 4:00 games, a pile of games at 1:00. You got to do better here, NFL. We got to do better as far as the distribution of when games are being played. One game at 4:00. First one we're going to talk about here, Tim. It's Carolina, Arizona, 44.5 is the total. Arizona is a 6-point favorite against the Panthers. Looked like Bryce Young regressed on he was coming on last season, so showing some progression. The rookie Ted McMillan looked pretty solid. He's still pretty cheap. There's some interesting pieces in Arizona. Absolutely, you have all the money in the world You can. Well, I shouldn't say all the money in the world, but it's not that hard if you want Trey McBride, who projects to be the top tight end on the slate. Tim, how are you handling the Cardinals and the Panthers?
I really like the Cardinals today. And it's just a play against the Panthers. Cardinals are playing at home. They have close to a 26 point implied team total. I don't mind getting some Kyler, Trey McBride stacks, even Kyler, Marvin Harrison, and obviously James Conner. I think he's completely a strong play for GPP. So there's a lot of Cardinals that I like here today. I think we can put Arizona in beast mode, and then Carolina I really have no interest in outside of Tet McMillan. I think he's a decent GPP play, but I'm not playing any stacks of Carolina. So Carolina in the Mr. Unlimited tier.
Bobby?
Carolina, Mr. Unlimited. Where do you put the Cardinals? Beast mode? I'm going to go Cardinals Megatron. Kyler, Trey McBride. I just love that stack today. Paying up a tight end, I think, differentiates yourself.
You like Marvin?
What'd you say?
I'm sorry. You're going to talk about it. I was asking about Marvin.
Yeah, Marvin, I think, is in play as well. He showed better last week than he had pretty much all of last season. I think James Conner is in a phenomenal spot as well. You could play Kyler with James Conner and Trey McBride, or there's just a multitude of ways to stack Arizona. I don't love the Panthers, like Tim said. I'm totally Mr. Unlimited. I just don't like Tet is fine, Xavier Legette, but yeah, there's not. Bryce Young looked atrocious. I'm not going there. It's mainly the Cardinals and Megatron for me.
I think Connor is my favorite play in this game, and if not Connor, it's McBride. So I'm fine with Murray, but I'm with Tim and whoever this is. I don't know which animal are we looking at here, Tim, right now?
This is Bella.
Are we just doing a bit now? Like we just kind of running through every 5 minutes? We have a new animal pop up.
This is actually Bella's debut. Bella has never been on a show before.
Shout out to Bella. All right, Bella, not shy at all. Did Bella hear about? There's we're all jumping on screen today. It's Sunday, a big day in the Tim household with the animals. Just kind of running through.
It must be. It must be Sunday. Sunday must be a big day.
Is Bella your favorite cat? The other cats aren't listening. Is Bella your favorite? You got 3 or 4?
I don't have favorites, Dean.
Dean likes cats more than dogs.
Well, no, you don't have. Why do you have to choose? We don't have to divide. We don't have to pick. You can like them all. But yeah, shout outs. Is there an open door? Did they not open the doors? What's going on there? How do they just sort of walk in, meander? It's not like a closed office.
All the doors are open.
Okay.
I have to put another Zin in after Dean told me he didn't like the Arizona take.
You're that easily rattled. I don't dislike it. They're just not elite, top tier. I like them. I like.
They might win the slate today.
They might.
I have them in Booger.
Well, there you go. TJ, give me 20 seconds. Why you have Arizona and Booger? I'm curious.
I just don't like the stack. I really like James Conner today. I like Trey McBride as a one-off, but I have no interest in playing like Kyler Murray double stacks in that situation with him. And so I would just rather play McBride as a spend up on his own or James Conner as a spend up on his own. I don't think Carolina is going to be able to push back to make it a worthwhile full stack. Especially against an Arizona defense that like their whole thing is bend but don't break. They allow people to have long drives and then they clench up near the red zone. So I don't think Carolina's going to be able to push back to make it a worthwhile stack. If I'm stacking it, I would rather do Connor with the Arizona defense as the stack I'm doing.
Yeah, TJ, me and you are simpatico in that. That's kind of where I'm at as well. So I'm agreeing with Tim. We're keeping Arizona in beast mode. Tim is pulling away. He's up 4-2, and there's only 2 games left. Maybe we're trying to organically create some suspense. Speaking of suspense, no winner just yet for today's Superstar Sunday. The 5th clue might get y'all there. Maybe. We'll see. 5th clue is microphone, champion, hurt, mile, Trojan, microphone. I have more clues if necessary, but get in that Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. Most of our Discord channels are free. The live stream chat channel, it is not O.J. Simpson or Lendell White or Malcolm Smith or Mark McGuire or Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins is not a superstar. Never. It is called, it's not ironically named, just throwing it out there. Nor is it Lynn Swan. Okay. I think it's 2 games left, right? And the board is going to be Tim, right? I think Tim, you are up. Is that correct? I believe so. You and Bella.
I think so.
Feel free to, if Bella wants to chime in, by all means, let Bella shine. Denver and Indy, 43.5 is the total.
Actually,
Indy's,
Bobby.
Is it Bobby?
Yeah, Tim put Cardinals in beast mode. Bobby moved it up to Megatron, then you moved it back down. So it is Bobby's turn.
Thank you. All right, Bobby, jump in here. Colts. You won all the money last week if you had Danny Dimes. There's a Danny Dimes category right there. I'm not trying to tell you where to put the Colts, but there you go. Denver, Indy. Bobby, what do you got?
Denver. I'm going to put Denver and Danny Dimes. I just think they're super condensed. Bo Nix didn't look great last week. Hopefully that turns around in the Dome there in Indy. It's in the Dome, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton, I think, is the best stacking partner. I like Evan Ingram a ton. So those would be the two that I definitely have the most interest in. And then Indy, not really interested a ton in Indy. I'd put Indy in Booger. I like Tyler Warren's my favorite low-owned GPP play. But outside of that, there's really no reason to get much of Indy, in my opinion, especially versus this Denver Broncos defense.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about not necessarily loving, or at least Tim didn't really love Pollard because of a tough matchup. But I guess it's sort of similar with Taylor. He's just going to get a ton of touches. I don't necessarily love the matchup versus Denver, but I think Taylor is an interesting option. And I'm pretty sure the reason why he didn't play the last chunk of that game was because they were just destroying Miami, and he had a slight tick of an injury. But there's a chance. I think he played every first half snap, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a chance he's like a full-fledged, cowbell running back against Denver. So I think he's in play, despite the fact it's not a great matchup. But Tim, if you want to play defense, you want to play offense, play it straight up, however you want to play it.
Where were the Colts starting?
Bobby, where are the Colts?
The Colts will go in Mr. Unlimited. Not interested in the Colts. I just changed it from Booger. Tim's going to block me.
Tim, what do you got?
No, I'm going to put Denver in the Booger tier, so I'm going to move Denver down one. There's not a single running back for Denver that I'd like to play. The only wide receiver that I would be looking to play maybe is Cortland Sutton, but even then, I really don't have that much interest. So in terms of stacking, I'm not getting to any Denver, so I'm going to put Denver in the Booger tier. And then it's kind of similar with Indy. It's Jonathan Taylor, and that's really it. So I'm fine with them being in Mr. Unlimited.
About 10 minutes away from Erik Beimfohr, Neil Orfield, Jordan Vanek. No suspense here. I actually agree with Tim. So Tim running away with it. Not just going to win today, but Tim is going to beat the spread. Tim is currently ahead 5-2. Last I saw on the DK Sportsbook, Tim was minus 1.5 points. So that locks up the spread as well. We do have to talk about every single game. The last game, rematch of the Super Bowl. It's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. 46.5 is a total. Noteworthy. We saw Hollywood really get loose because there's not a lot of options here for Kansas City. Marquise Hollywood Brown. You can always play Jalen Hurts. You can play him a la carte. I know TJ's been touting all week, and he'll talk about it later on. The splits when Goddard is out, Devontae Smith really seems to elevate. We didn't see much from A.J. Brown. There were some rumblings. Maybe it was dealing with his injury that he had in preseason. He seemed to kind of blow it off that it was nothing. And he's like, watch, this is the week. If you saw in a little interview, you're going to buy that. You're going to need Kelsey out there if you're Kansas City, whatever's left of him at 35, 36 years old. But, yeah, Tim, the Eagles and the Chiefs, where are they going on the board?
Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting game. I think this game is really, really filled with some pretty strong GPP plays. I do like the Devonta call. I actually really like A.J. Brown at 6,600 too. That seems incredibly cheap for him. So, and then, I think we're going to see Saquon Barkley take on more of like a, all down running back without Shipley. Like, I don't know how much Bigsby's really going to take over like that third down scenario. So I think Saquon might actually be in line for more receptions this week. So I don't mind him for GPPs. He's gonna be really, really low on this week. So I actually don't mind the Eagles here in the beast mode tier. I'm probably personally not going to be getting to any of them in single entry, but I think if I was building out a portfolio of teams, this is a really strong team to build into. And then on the other side of this game, I think the Chiefs are okay. Marquise Brown is obviously going to be their wide receiver 1, which is just kind of funny. And he's going to be really, really cheap. I love Taquan Thornton in GPPs today, especially if he's going to be 1%, because, I mean, he's just like home run or bust here. And so if he does get there, he's going to get there in a really, really big way. So I really like Taquan Thornton. So I think I'm going to put KC in the Danny Dimes tier.
What was it? 115 air yards week 1 for Thornton, right? So, like you said, homer or bust. The deep balls went his way. Not a lot of options these days for Kansas City. Waiting on Rice to come back from a suspension, waiting on Worthy to come back. Good to see him practicing. Who knows when he's going to play, but he was out there practicing, which there were some thoughts that he'll be shut down for a while, and maybe he's playing with a brace. We'll see, something to keep an eye on. But today already rolled out. Bobby, how do we feel about Philly in beast mode in Kansas City and Danny Dimes?
I'll just take my loss. I agree with all of Tim's takes. Hurts to Devontae Smith is probably my favorite stacking option with Hurts, but I like A.J. Brown as well. We talked about Grant Calcaterra at 2,500 for large field stuff at the beginning of the show. Love the Taquan Thornton off of Hollywood Brown pivot. So yeah, you don't necessarily need a run back in this game, I would imagine, because it could come from so many different ways, and then no one hits a ceiling for Kansas City. I don't know. Kansas City's fine in Danny Dimes.
I do want to recap the board. I also want we got to get a winner here in the Discord channel. I stumped the people. If you hit over 4.5, over hits. And I got to tell you, some days the people say that the clues are bad. They're tricky, but these are really good clues. It's going to all make sense in the end. No winner just yet. Some guesses coming through. People still not quite understanding it is Superstar Sunday, and Mark Sanchez, not a superstar. Mark Sanchez not a superstar, so he cannot qualify as an answer. But I do want to give a couple more clues. Champion, Hurt, Mile, Trojan, Microphone. This person is retired, and they're a Hall of Famer because they were a superstar, a retired Hall of Famer, and they played football. And feel free to start firing off some multiple. You can MME now. You can MME now in the live stream chat. First person to get there, tell me who today's superstar is. It's not Ronnie Lott or Bradshaw. Want to give away a week free of RG Premium. It's not Marshawn Lynch, although we already did shout out Beast Mode. That would be a good, tying it all together. But I do want to get a winner here. All right, before we step aside and make way for the next team coming in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to recap the board. I power ranked today's tiers, nicknames, NFL player nicknames, Megatron, Calvin Johnson, 3 teams, the Bengals. We have the Ravens, San Francisco. Most popular tier is Beast Mode. That's the Dolphins, the Patriots, Cowboys, Bills, Jets, Detroit, Arizona, Philadelphia. Tier 3, Danny Dimes, Jacksonville, the Rams, Bears, Saints, Chiefs. Tier 4 is Booger, and that is Cleveland, Tennessee, Denver, all the way at the bottom. You got Mr. Unlimited. It is the Giants, the Seahawks, Pittsburgh, Carolina, and the Colts. We do have a winner, by the way. We will shout him out. This is actually a 2-time winner this week. I know IBC won earlier this week with baseball. IBC is a multiple sport athlete when it comes to playing these games. You'll get yourself a week free of RG Premium or Scores and Odds. Dealer's Choice. Producer TJ is going to go in there and slide and hook you up there in just a second. Tim, we do have our team coming in here shortly. I do want to know favorite tier, favorite stack, hottest take. Give me something. What else do we want to add that you have not touched on? I know you're in those single entry streets a fair bit. Have you figured out what your single entry, if you're going to build a stack? Where is it going to be? Do you want to tell the people your boldest fade? Let's give them something.
Yeah, so I'm really, really high on Hunter Henry today. I think he's a really strong standout play. I'm also really high on the double tight end, like lower end price range tight end, like a Fan and Henry. Ooh. or like a Henry Warren, something like that. So I guess my take is more just about lineup construction. I I do like Henry. I mean, I know he's $900 more, but I really do like the getting off some of that fan and ownership. So I really like Henry in GPPs. I don't mind going like a Henry Warren, a Henry Juwan Johnson, I think, or like a Henry Strange pairing. It allows me to kind of just load up at wide receiver. It gives me a little bit more, salary at the quarterback position. Also, if I want to get off Mac Jones, so I kind of like the double saving at tight end in single entry and GPP stuff.
Bobby, give me a hot take. I know at the start of the show you were not liking the fact that you get a bunch of Tyreek Hill. We understand why. It kind of sort of somewhat makes sense. No Gonzalez in that secondary for New England. We've seen it before. It's happened. It's on record. There's video footage of him getting loose and scoring like 50-yard touchdowns. It's been a while. But are we sticking with that? Have we moved off it? How do you feel about Tyreek, the Dolphins in general? That New England game you're talking about was one of your more appealing options. What else do you want to give that people?
I think Tyreek does get loose, but my favorite stack of the day is going to be Baltimore. Lamar, Zay Flowers, Andrews, Bateman. I just like all the pass catchers in that game. I know the spread indicates it could be a Henry game, but I really like Baltimore. I like Tillman run back or a Fannin run back, etc.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's going to be an onslaught. I was thinking about, and I hand build my stuff. I don't make a ton of lineups, and I was thinking about it was like a default, just have a Raven in every lineup. And I'm going to be over the field in Lamar. I'm going to be over the field on Henry. If I'm playing Henry, I'd love to find the money for Baltimore defense as well. Cleveland opened their mouth, and I can't remember the defensive player that came out and said, like, there's really no challenge in tackling Derrick Henry, which seems like famous last words. Seems like a terrible thing to say before you're about to play. Derrick Henry is like 13-point dogs. Presumably angry Derrick Henry, and the entire Ravens team for blowing that game on Sunday night. All right, we have another team coming in here shortly. Just a few minutes. They're hanging out there in the bullpen. Got Vanek, Beimfohr, Neil as well. Did want to tell the people how we got there as far as the clues for Superstar Sunday. The first clue was champion. This person was a 3-time Super Bowl winner. Now, hurt does not necessarily mean they're injured, but it's in their name. A synonym for hurt is when you might say you're aching, ache. Clue number 3, mile. It referenced their number, famously 8 mile. So that means they are number 8. So they're a champion. Hurt is just kind of a synonym, part of their name. You probably already pieced it together. You probably already figured it out. 8 mile. Trojan was kind of a red herring in some ways because people were thinking USC, a lot of USC guesses. But Trojan, it's also the Troy Trojans. You don't really think about the school, the Troy Trojans, but it's right there in the name. Troy Trojans.
That's such a bad name.
It's not good. It's not great. I didn't name them.
The Canada Canadians. The United States Americans. Trojans are from Troy. That's why it's their name. That's such a weird name. They should be the Troy Horses.
The Troy Horses. All right. Are you afraid to play the horse? Are they imposing? Again, I didn't name the team, but I just took what they gave me. So yeah, Troy Trojans, and then clue number 5, microphone. We know this person has been on the Fox lead team, the number 1 team for Fox for many years. Partnered with Joe Buck. It of course is Troy Aikman. All right, TJ, let me know when we're fully assembled as far as the next team. I don't know. I see Vanek is in chat and he's typing about. I don't know if he's excited about playing the Panthers. What do you got, TJ?
We were just waiting on Beimfohr, but he should be here any second. And then I just wanted to shout out that Troy is a great movie. Watch Troy if you haven't seen it. Fantastic movie.
Brad Pitt. I haven't seen that movie in years. I don't remember much about it. You're saying I should circle back and watch Troy. Yeah, all right. We'll put it on the list. I know TJ is, if you're not following, TJ is watching the best movies, pretty much like one movie every single day, circling back on things he may have missed or did not fully understand when he saw it when he was like 12 or something like that. So, all right. Coming in next, we mentioned, I'm really curious. Vanek is going to be wearing his Luke Kuechly jersey, I'm told. Spoiler alert. So you might get some Carolina Panther homerism. We'll see how that goes down. Neil, I've not got a sneak peek at his wardrobe, but the DK Sportsbook currently has flannel at minus 10,000, and FanDuel just took it off the board altogether. So maybe there's some inside information that I'm not quite aware of. Bobby, what is your boldest fade? Boldest fade you have right now? Well, what's the player right now? For whatever reason, looks good, but you're not playing him for SimLabs purposes, for ownership purposes. Player you're kind of like most afraid of not having that's going to beat you.
Chase Brown. I'm going to play him, but I'm going to be under the field on Chase Brown.
Yeah, I like that call. I like him too, but I'm also not afraid to not play him. Tim, you have another answer as far as is there a player or a stack that you think you're not going to play in your single entry stuff that's might decide your fate one way or another?
I think Lamar and Henry I'm not going to be playing, which is terrifying.
Ooh, no Baltimore. You're just rooting for Baltimore defensive touchdowns, or just kind of a low-scoring game?
I guess so. Low-scoring game.
All right. We have the next team is fully assembled. We got Beimfohr, we have Orfield, and we have Vanek. Let's do it. Let's seamlessly transition right now. Oh, flannel. You just lost your house.
I've got it on the hat. It's on the hat.
Judges are saying no. The books are cleaning. They're just cleaning up right now. That's amazing. Maybe some inside information going the other way. Did not anticipate that. Is it too hot for flannel? Is that what's going on? Are we doing a laundry?
It's going to be a high of like 86 today here in Minnesota. So yeah, a little bit too hot for the flannel.
Yeah, you know what? Should have put more thought into that. That line was a bad line, it turns out.
I thought the hat covered me, by the way. I just assumed that the hat covered my flannel.
Yeah. Is that Erik? Is that flannel? Would you say he's wearing? I would not say Neil was wearing flannel.
I would need to touch it. We need to pull it into evidence. I would need to check and see if it's actual flannel. I will just say that I RotoGrinders show, all that kind of stuff. When I see FV, I think of a different DFS company from many moons ago that you guys all probably remembered. That it still throws me. I know what you're referencing, right? The flannel verse. It's great. I love it. But my instinct is something very different from that. So it throws me off every time I see you.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Sorry.
You don't know. Are you playing coy or you don't know?
No, I really don't know. I really can't think of what FV would be.
Neil might be pre-FanVice?
Yeah, FanVice days.
Post.
Yes. Now that you say it, okay, that makes sense.
Those avatars are still kicking around DraftKings. So they're in the depths of the DraftKings avatar lobby, but they're there.
Where's the boat gif? Where's the DC boat gif? That's somewhere on the Twitter. If you can find that, give it a search. I'm sure it's been dropping the last couple months or so. So Jordan, Carolina Panthers. This is just we're doing this. Is this a bit or?
No, I'm going to the game today. I flew out to Vegas, was there for Friday, Saturday, and then drove over to Arizona. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so just my girlfriend has friends in Arizona and Glendale, so it was kind of like a tie-it all together trip going to be at the game. I'm literally staring at the stadium. Like the stadium's right across from where we're at. We're going to walk over there probably. It's weird. I've never been on the Pacific for football, and the fact that football's going to be kicking off in 10 a.m. It's a strange world. I don't know how this works. I feel like I would love it over here. Like going to bed at 11 when football's on, it's fantastic.
Well, yeah. Okay. So you know what time the actual Arizona game is, though, correct?
Yeah, 1:30.
3 hours early by accident.
Yeah. No. I mean, I might have to go. It's the battle of the smallest quarterbacks in the world. Like my girlfriend's going to get her first football game, and it's two quarterbacks who are probably not taller than me. So I'm going to show her like, yeah, this is not normal. This is very abnormal QB height. Usually Josh Allen and stuff is running around.
Enjoy the game. Myself and Tim and Bobby, we appreciate watching the first portion. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Do not go anywhere because these guys got you the rest of the way until they hand it off to crunch time. Almost 2 hours of nonstop NFL DFS conversation continues. Beimfohr, it's all yours.
Shout out, as always, to the people showing welcome to GPP Final Takes. I am, of course, Erik Beimfohr, as you see on your screen, joined by two of the best in the biz, Neil Orfield, Jordan Vanek. Jordan is hopefully not distracted from what is assuredly a monster tailgate that goes on at Arizona Cardinals games. I imagine that downtown is just really going nuts for the Cardinals. I always joke We'll get to it. I promise. We'll get to but you don't get a word all summer from Arizona. Like, I don't know if they have a beat writer that works for, Arizona. Like, we know nothing. It just feels like they're kind of in the NFL, but like kind of not. And so a very bizarre team, but very relevant to today's slate. And if you've not joined us before for GPP Final Takes, we're not necessarily going to go game by game. We're not necessarily going to go position by position. What we're going to try to do is get through the final takes, the most important things to think about, to consider for tournaments. Sometimes that's a really, really chalky player. Sometimes that's an injury. Sometimes that's a game. It kind of varies slate by slate. And I think, Neil, to kick it to you first, this slate for me is kind of like a what's real, what isn't, what do our opponents think is real, and what do they think isn't real, and how do we, we'll get to Christian McCaffrey, I promise. But what is like out there from week one that we should sink our teeth into, and what should we fade from week one?
Yeah, it's really tough to decipher in week 2, because we always think of this as the fade the noise kind of week, the week that like all the sharps should have a huge advantage in week 2. I'm not sure if I've ever actually had a successful week 2 on the main slate. I think I've shipped a showdown slate on week 2. I don't know that I've actually had any success on week 2 main slates, despite feeling good about it every year. So yeah, this is always an interesting one. And I've kind of been thinking about what might be going wrong for me. And so I play the largest field GPPs, obviously. And so I'm always looking for like, what are the most like off the wall plays that I think could crush at really low ownership. And I think that's kind of my issue, is that you still have really soft pricing in week 2. So like you can just play the best plays, just play like really highly projected lineups. And you're generally players that are going to be highly owned are highly owned for good reason in week 2, because they're just way too low priced for the role that they have now. Because when the prices are set, like the DraftKings doesn't have information on what happens in week 1 when they're setting the prices. So it's just, and FanDuel, obviously same thing. So it's just like you still get super soft pricing. So you do want to react to what happened in week 1. You just don't want to overreact. So yeah, it's a very a strange week, but a fun one to dig into.
I could not agree more with that, Jordan. What I will add, a couple of examples from week 2 that I think will be helpful to like discuss like what is this monster that is week 2? Because like Neil said, it's kind of like we still have the original summer pricing, right? The DraftKings puts out pricing month whatever in advance, and it kind of just carries over into week 2 as well. But now we at least have that one data point, so that's when we're like, okay, what is this real? What is real? What isn't real? And I'm going to date myself, okay? So just like I was dating myself with the reference to the hat already. In 2020, if you recall, Davante Adams was still on the Green Bay Packers. He dropped like 50 fantasy points in week 1. He had like 15 catches for 180 yards and like 3 touchdowns. It was insane. If you didn't have him, obviously you lost. Shout out Dan Bach. If you're not playing that guy, you're just probably going to lose. Next week, Davante plays the Detroit Lions. This is the old school Detroit Lions, right? Not our new Lions, which we'll talk about them too. Smash spot. Davante's like, right, it's the same thing. Pricing that hasn't really fully adjusted to like, oh my God, Davante Adams. So he's like 50% in tournaments. Aaron Jones, the Green Bay Packers running back, is like 10%, sub 10%. He's in this great spot still. Aaron Jones comes out and drops like 50 in week 2 against the Lions. He was the leverage play. They were both good plays, but because of what happened in week 1 with Davante, everybody went there. The Miami Dolphins, you're not to bring up sore subject from last week, Jordan, but the Miami Dolphins a couple of years ago, in week 1, it was like, oh yeah, this offense looks kind of fun. It's all Tyreek. It's all Waddle. They're passing, right? This was pre-Achane. They come out in week 2 and play an 80-point shootout with the Baltimore Ravens. Andrews goes crazy. Tyreek and Waddle both score like 40. It was absolutely insane, but the field didn't buy into that one. They were like, we bought the Davante Adams thing. We're still not so sure about this Miami Dolphins stuff. And so they were low owned, and you had to have them to win tournaments. What's your kind of take on that sort of concept, right? Obviously, but applying it to this year and this week too.
Yeah, I actually wrote up that Tyreek Hill, Jalen, like against the Ravens stat, because I remember Baltimore, like the Wink days were awesome. I loved when Wink was calling the defense. Will McDonald getting that job was it's really sad, because now they're a very interesting defense against the Bills. Obviously, they blew it, but this week, like a few things to take over from week 1 to week 2. For me, Aaron Rodgers historically has like a 10 to 11% touchdown rate against man coverage. And Aaron Glenn, I was interested to see, what are you going to do going over to the Jets? Because with Detroit, they ran a ton of man. Like that is what they did. They did it last year against the Bills. And he comes in week 1 against the Steelers. And even though Aaron Rodgers historically kills man coverage, he is one of the best in the NFL at playing it, because he came up in the NFL era of cover one coverage, and that's when Aaron Rodgers was throwing 40 touchdowns and stuff. They gave him man. They gave him man a ton. They traveled Sauce Gardner to their wide receiver one with DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf didn't have a catch against Sauce. He had a bunch of drag routes that he looked pretty explosive. And now, like this week, like I think he's going to give Josh Allen man coverage, which last year they did it. That's what they did in that Detroit game. And I look at that game and I'm like, wait a minute. Detroit absolutely shredded them. And if you're going to travel Sauce Gardner to Keon Coleman, who are the options? And that means Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer's personally my favorite. I think he is the best man coverage beater on the team, which is pretty sad, but it's just like he's always been good metrically. He just never could figure it out with Justin Herbert. I don't know what it was, but I think this first week, like he did it in big moments against the Ravens. Like I really like him this week. We'll talk about that more. And then on the other side of the game, like Derrick Henry was like, yeah, Derrick Henry's really good at football. I love Derrick Henry. They couldn't touch him until he got 5 yards down the field, which is the death sentence for Derrick Henry. The Bills' run defense is still atrocious. They have bled the biggest rushing games for like 5 straight years. Like we think Jonathan Taylor in the Colts game where he had 5 touchdowns way a long time ago. Derrick Henry's ran for over 170 yards multiple times. And that Jets team, like the Jets in particular, I loved what I saw. They have an identity. They're not competing for Super Bowls, and that's fine. But they're going to run the ball. They're going to run it effectively, and they were mowing down that Steelers front seven. I'm really into that stack this week. I wrote that up as like I love Breece Hall. I don't care that he's 6,200. I'm a little afraid of Braylon Allen taking goal line touches, but last week he did so, and he wasn't good. So I think it could be like big runs from Breece Hall is kind of what I'm hoping. And just week 1 to week 2, like. The Bengals are a stack that we're going to get to, of course. I saw them failing in week 1, right? And they did, and they had -7 yards or whatever it was in that second half. This Jaguars defense, as a Panthers fan, the plays were there. It was a strange, like the Panthers played bad, but I also say there was a 2-hour weather delay in the middle of the first quarter, second quarter. We got past the 45 different times. We just could not finish drives with turnovers, with penalties. We got stopped on 4th and 2 twice. Ted McMillan was destroying them on the outside. Now you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins instead of Ted McMillan and Xavier Legette. Like, there's a few bounce back weeks that I see big. Like, I know the field's playing a lot of Chase Brown right now. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins could have one of those nuclear days against this Jaguars defense. And for me, that's kind of the 2 games that I'm building my lineups around because I see those 2 as the potential big time shootouts this week.
I love that. Neil, what's your, before we kind of get into some of these, the Christian McCaffreys, the what have yous of the world, what's one of those or 2 of those like bounce back or I'm buying this right type situations that you're leaning on this week?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals is like one of the most obvious. Like this is the ultimate bounce back spot, going from really tough matchup to a great matchup. Kind of makes me like them even better that they struggled last week. You got to think they're going to try to establish things this week, make sure that they can get the offense flowing. So love the Bengals this week. Honestly, the other side of the game too, the Jaguars, although they had a great matchup last week and were not able to capitalize on it, I think this is another great matchup. And I think like everybody just needed to see Trevor Lawrence and that offense fail once to just give up on it. So I think we're going to get that team at really low ownership. And I don't know, I think that he's always been kind of a inconsistent quarterback, but he has he never has great games, but he has good games sometimes. And against this defense, from a fantasy standpoint, I could see it being a good game for Trevor Lawrence. So I really like that game environment as one with 2 teams that I think could bounce back. I love Dallas this week. I think it's a great matchup against a lot of single high coverage for both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who both excel against single high coverage. Last week, Dak looked great. I think he's just I think he's a really good quarterback, and I think they didn't really get it done through the air from a fantasy perspective last week. They had 2 goal line carries converted for touchdowns, but I think that this is an upgrade of a matchup, not like an awesome matchup against the Giants, but an upgrade at the very least. And I think that it's one that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens should both excel in, and Dak should excel in. So I'm going to be really targeting that passing game a fair amount, and then the Lions. I mean, we saw how good the Packers defense looked on Thursday. The Lions were terrible against them. And you know, I think there's some concern that it could be because they lost Ben Johnson, but we don't really know how much of a factor that is actually going to be for the Lions, because the Packers defense is apparently just incredible. So
the 85 Bears, man, jeez.
It looks so good. I hate it as a Vikings fan. I hate it so much. I hate Jerry Jones. I'm so mad. But that is the reality that we live in. So yeah, I'll be playing some of the Lions Bears game as well.
Yeah, they knew that their corners were not the world's best corners in Green Bay, and they were like, "Why don't we just get that Parsons guy? Because nobody's ever going to target the corners because the quarterback can't get the ball downfield." I totally agree with everything you guys have said. I see you guys' comments in the live chat. Please keep them coming. I promise we'll hit absolutely as many of them as we can. I want to make sure first, though, guys, that we touch on the 49ers, because those are the 49ers and the Saints are it's probably not our favorite game of the week in terms of like, right, Jags and Bengals feels a lot better. Travis asked about like, why is it a bounce back for the Jaguars? Well, like just an overall bounce back for like a game environment for the Jaguars and the passing game, right? I do very much like Travis Etienne. We'll get to. I think the Jaguars fantasy game, as Neil put in the chat, was like not that fun in week one, and we thought it would be, and I think this one will be much more fun. But we got to talk about the 49ers. Jordan, Christian McCaffrey, obviously a billion touches, right? Just it pops up on the injury report. We joked about this. Typical week one, typical NFL DFS. CMC pops up with the calf, of course, which is like terrifying, and then is fine. And there was rumblings. So I know, shout out Lord Reeves said this. Some other people that I know, I don't have these kind of league contacts, but we're saying the 49ers were kind of adamant on sitting Christian McCaffrey last week. He like talked his way into playing, just being like, I promise I'm fine, right? Just let me go play. And then Kyle Shanahan does Kyle Shanahan things and gives him the ball 32 times. It's like, you were going to sit him, but you did that. On one hand, this is obviously, it's kind of the Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall show. No George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk, right? Banged up Juwan, et cetera. But it's Mac Jones. They are on the road. It is like not a particularly super sexy game environment, though the Saints are kind of fun-ish, right? Like bad team fun. And the touches feel really good for Christian McCaffrey, but it wasn't like old school 99% snap share Christian McCaffrey. It was like, 75 or so. Brian Robinson got 11 opportunities in that game. It was kind of just like, we're behind and just give Christian McCaffrey the ball every single time. I'm curious on your take about how you think this game plays out, because it does set up, I think, a little bit differently than what we saw that led to all those touches for CMC last week.
Yeah, I think this is a letdown spot for McCaffrey, not because of McCaffrey's workload. And what this is like, maybe Giga bringing it, trying to be, unique, whatever. Brian Robinson and Mac Jones are teammates at Alabama. Like, they have familiarity with each other, with the way they want to run things, with everything, like how they do things. And I just think that, like, Brian Robinson looked fine getting the ball. Like, I think this is a spot where, like, he could vulture McCaffrey in different things just because of the familiarity, and the backup running back works with the backup quarterback all the time. And we see this a lot at the collegiate level, mainly, not as much in the NFL. Like, I don't think McCaffrey's not going to get the ball 20 times. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But it just kind of feels like in a spot like near the goal line, he might sub out for Brian Robinson. Like, Brian Robinson's fully capable of taking goal line touches. He's a big bruising back, and you don't really want McCaffrey to take those kind of hits. And it's just like, from a game perspective, like, I like Pearsall. He's the price point, the 8-out that he had, like, everything looks good for him. I understand that people may want to pivot to Juwan Jennings, and he could very well be very good, but we've never seen Mac Jones step back as a passer for the 49ers. I think Mac Jones was a talent that was failed on early, just from situation being very bad. Like, Tom Brady towards the end of his New England days was really bad because they never got him talent. And then Mac Jones came in, they never really got him talent, and then he never really had the opportunity to kind of play again. I think he'll look good in this game, but it's like, it just, to me, I just don't see this is clearly the guy that's going to have this explosive game. And then also, I think Shanahan just takes the air of the ball once they take the big lead, which could lead Brian Robinson to getting some touches as well. Like, it's just a weird game environment for me. I've just been kind of avoiding. I'm just like, this can't shoot out. Like, this, there's just no way that Spencer Rattler and stuff. I wish I had love for the 49ers defense, but there's another defense that I think is just the clear for me. Like, I'm just getting to, I think they're going to have multiple turnovers, and perform at a very high level against an offense that put up significant numbers last week.
I think we're on the same thing. You're foreshadowing something that I think I'm catching on to. But it's like a mediocre sitcom foreshadowing. Like, I think I got it, but I'm not totally sure, right? Neil, what do you think about CMC and the 49ers? I just got to give one stat. So there's been a lot made of, and I mean, I'm not, this is not actually why. I really do like Ricky Pearsall probably a little bit more than Jordan does. This is not why, but it is fun. Obviously, last year, there was a lot made of Trevor Lawrence kind of holding back Brian Thomas Jr., if you will, and Mac Jones, like BTJ became the BTJ that we know and love now because Mac Jones was the quarterback. What's interesting is that's pretty true. Brian Thomas Jr. had 80 targets, 52 catches, 687 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 8 games with Mac Jones. And in 9 games with Trevor Lawrence, just 53, right? So he had as many catches as targets, 35 for 595 and 5. So the touchdowns were there with Trevor Lawrence, but the volume was there with Mac Jones. If you go back, Jordan mentioned those Alabama days. There was a quarterback of a wide receiver who won the Heisman Trophy. That was not Travis Hunter. He won the Heisman Trophy as only a wide receiver. Devontae Smith did not play defense, and he won the Heisman Trophy. Here's the numbers for Devontae Smith with Mac Jones at Alabama. In 13 games, 145 targets, 117 catches, 1,856 receiving yards, and 24 touchdowns. I know that's college. I know that's Alabama. But I think it's reasonable to say Mac Jones knows where his bread gets buttered. And it's not like being Peyton Manning. It's getting the ball to the really good football players. So they only really have 2.5 of those. Juwan is warming up for anyone. We just got that report. Juwan is warming up. So it could be 2 to 3 guys. I agree, Marie. I just thought it was a fun stat, but it is like, I think reasonable to say with Kyle Shanahan, with Mac Jones, with very limited talent on this offense, it's probably going to be about as concentrated as you can get with the 49ers.
Yeah, I love that call out. That's something that I've been thinking about. Now, I do wonder how Juwan Jennings plays into it. Like, are we sure that Ricky Pearsall is the clear alpha there in San Francisco? No. Like, if Juwan Jennings plays, like, it wouldn't be that shocking if it ends up being Juwan Jennings. So I think both are fine plays, not like huge targets, but players that I will be mixing in. Also, obviously, you have Mac Jones at 4,000 on DraftKings, and I want to say 6,000 on FanDuel. So he's pretty inexpensive, makes it really easy to stack. Pearsall also only 6,200 on FanDuel, so it's a really inexpensive stack. So that's a fine way to play it, in my opinion. I'm more bullish on CMC, I think, than Jordan is, and then Chat seems to be. And the reason is just like the volume is almost too good to fail at his price tag. Like, what is he, 7,500? He's up $200 from last week. He had 10 targets last week, and running back targets are different than receiver targets because you're really likely to catch it. Like, the catch rate is a lot higher for running backs than it is for receivers. So it's like, all right, if he gets 10 targets, what is that? 8 fantasy points just from receptions, and then you get the yardage there. I'm not going to be playing him in 50% of my lineups. I'm not trying to like completely jam CMC, but I do think like he has a pretty high floor as long as he stays healthy, because the volume is just really, really good for CMC. So I think he's a cash game lock. That we'll start there. He's a cash game lock, and then in tournaments, it really comes down to how much ownership is he going to get, and how many other running backs do we think are in spots where they can like really outperform him. And there are a few that I think like could outperform CMC, like could put up 30 plus fantasy points. But there's not that many that I'm confident are going to put up more than 20 fantasy points, which is like, I'm not going to call that the floor for CMC, but I think 20 fantasy points is like a 25th, 30th percentile outcome. I don't know. Maybe I'm overstating how good the floor is.
I think he scores 20 plus more than half the time. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think that's a better approximation of his range of outcomes. Like he's just like his range of outcomes is a wide range, and it starts at like 14. If you play, he can't score fewer. Like it's difficult for him to score fewer than 14, just because the volume is so good. Now it wouldn't be shocking if the Saints just completely load the box and force the 49ers to throw the ball, like force it to be the Mac Jones show. But man, the volume is really good there. So I do like McCaffrey a little bit better, I think, than Jordan does. But like they really could just try to limit him, try to force it to the air.
I totally agree with you guys. We should talk quickly, at least, about Mac Jones. So first, I guess I should say, this is relevant for Mac Jones and for Christian McCaffrey and for the 49ers overall. I think FanDuel is quite different than DraftKings. I would say Christian McCaffrey is priced right next to the Saquon Barkleys and the Derrick Henrys, and it's half-point PPR. So those 10 targets, while valuable, right? The risk of Brian Robinson, the risk of this is Mac Jones with not that much talent around him. How many points are they? Yeah, I know it's the Saints, but how many points are they really going to score on FanDuel on a half PPR site? Is the risk is heightened. But like you said, when you're just getting a bunch of targets on DraftKings, it's very different. Same thing for Ricky Pearsall and Juwan. This team could fail and those guys could still end up being really good plays, Christian McCaffrey included. But Mac Jones is a $4,000 quarterback. I will also say no interest on FanDuel for Mac Jones, right? Am I fair to say this? Nobody feels the need to go to Mac Jones on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah. You're on mute. Neil,
mute,
but
he's Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer in this thing.
He's hyping Mac Jones and on mute and talking.
Mac Jones, you gotta play Mac. No, I might get you a few shares, but yeah, certainly not a priority for me.
Yeah. So on DraftKings, it's a $4,000 quarterback. I think you nailed it, Jordan, in the chat, but do you want to kind of elaborate on that? Because I feel the same. Neil hit on loose pricing. There are a lot of good quarterbacks. Is he really necessary, even though he's 4,000 in tournaments, specifically on DraftKings?
No, I mean, the person was thinking he'd be 25% owned in the single entries, but I think he'll be, maybe 7 to 12. We talked about the pricing obviously being just super weak, but you have Jameson Williams at 5,700. There's so many guys in this 5 to 6,500 bucket that haven't, or they're not going to be given up on yet. And there's going to be a group of them that are just, we're going to look back in 5 weeks and be like, wow, I can't believe they were once 552, 54. There's just so many guys that, DeAndre Swift played 85% of the snaps and is 5,700 against Detroit defense that did not look the part. I don't really love what I saw from that Detroit team. And again, I like their DCs. Absolutely hilarious if you tuned into those press conferences. But as far as just pricing's too weak to go to the 4K quarterback, especially with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen on the slate.
Yep, I think it's just a pricing thing. It's not like you said, in week 12, if this situation comes about, we'll be we might be I don't think I can fade Mac Jones, right? And today I'm it's fine, but I don't feel the need. Let's do some questions, and then we'll get into some of the other running back plays of the slate, the non Christian McCaffrey, not Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson being discussed, and DeAndre Swift so far for running back. So we got a lot to get to at the running back position. This one is fun. I've noticed this. Alex says earlier, thoughts on a quarterback in the Eagles versus Chiefs game. I wanted to hit this because I'm actually not sure exactly how much we'll talk about this game, which is crazy because it's a Super Bowl rematch and the Eagles are pretty good and the Chiefs have been pretty good. The Chiefs are shorthanded. It's strange. But this game isn't popping, right? If you run optimals, you're not really getting guys in this game. What do you think about that, Neil? Is that crazy or is that something to take advantage of?
I think it is actually. It's not one that I've been talking about or targeting, to be clear. So I don't want to make it sound like, yes, this is my game. But Hollywood will get some ownership after being targeted 16 times last week. So he is the one getting a fair amount of ownership. But I do like the Eagles side of the game more because you've got Dallas Goedert out. Devonta Smith has just crushed. Anytime Dallas Goedert misses, Devonta Smith really increases his fantasy production. Nobody is playing it. And it's just, I think the Chiefs defense might take a little bit of a step back this year. We'll see. But I think that is kind of looking like they're going to take a step back. So I do actually really like the Eagles side of this game. It's just like last week, I was not, it was an island game, but we had the Bills Ravens, and it was man, it's hard to figure out what's going to happen in this game because it's two great offenses playing two great defenses, and then obviously the offense is absolutely smashed in that game. This could be the same kind of thing where it's just we've got two really strong teams. They're good offensively and defensively. What if the offenses just win out and crush in this game? I don't like the Chiefs side as much, again, because Hollywood is getting a lot of ownership. I think Kelsey might be he looks washed to me, but he also should be pretty involved here. I don't really know what I want to play from the Chiefs side, but the Eagles side, you know exactly what you want to play. You want to be playing, if you're not playing Saquon, who to me is kind of expensive, what if it is just a passing game? Like, what if this is the game where they need to lean on the pass? Jalen Hurts obviously going to add some with the run, but then you have Devonta Smith and AJ Brown are better without Dallas Goedert. Just like that trio in some combo, I think looks really good.
I would tend to agree. Jordan, what do you think about this game? I'll also add, I'm probably the only person that may even care about this, but my best ball bags are shedding its tear. My boy Will Shipley has an oblique injury and he's out today. They obviously traded for Tank Bigsby, but I do think if they lean into the pass, that's actually important for Saquon Barkley as a play, because Will Shipley was coming in and playing some passing downs and mixing in, and AJ Dillon got murdered Landon Dickerson. And I think that's part of why they got Tank Bigsby was not just the Shipley injury, right? Was let's not do this AJ Dillon thing anymore. But that means Saquon's probably going to get a small tick up, right? You just remove Goddard, and it's just like, what else do we do? They're like kind of like the 49ers, except at full strength with Jalen Hurts, as opposed to with Mac Jones. What are we doing with this game, Jordan?
So the
Jalen Wright is inactive. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but that was one I didn't even see him on the injury report for.
Who?
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright.
Yeah, he's been hurt.
Oh, geez. I was thinking of Jalen Warren. I interrupted for no reason. I was like, whoa, is this a random scratch? My bad. Ignore me. Sorry, guys. Got the wrong
Jalen Warren after Caleb Johnson taking one carry for -2 yards and a fumble.
Yeah, that's why I was so shocked. That's why I was so shocked.
So to get to the Eagles Chiefs game, I'm worried about the Eagles offense. And it's not a talent perspective. It's just simply the scheme. Like the first half, so this is the difference between two great play callers. I'll kind of make it, try to sum it up quickly. Kevin O'Connell, Dennis Allen, historically a man coverage guy. Historically speaking, cover 2 man is what they do, what they give you on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. The tendency is very, very strong for multiple years of data. This past week, McCarthy first series gets into 3rd and 8. The Vikings go mesh. You have Justin Jefferson crossing with Jalen Naylor. They're supposed to high five. One's supposed to break free. JJ McCarthy's supposed to dump it off and let him get the big game. You see man coverage. They motion. It looks man. Peyton Manning's even on the Manning cast. Like, yeah, this looks like man here. You got to go to your man beater. They run mesh. They go into cover 2. Everybody's staring at McCarthy. He has no idea what to do. He gets sacked. You go into the next half. They knew, okay, they're going to give us some zone looks here. We're going to start running some zone beaters. And then they just started humming on offense and they started to get going. Eagles playing the Cowboys. Cowboys that first half gave them so much zone coverage. There's no man coverage being played. Eagles made 0 adjustment to try to beat their zone coverages. It just wasn't like Jalen Hurts is dropping back and like, all right, I have to just hammer Goddard because this is a soft spot. And then AJ Brown's just running man beaters in just no man's land where he's like, I'm covered everywhere I go, and he can't really get the job done. And it's kind of like, you can't adjust as an offensive caller, and it's the first game of the season. And it's like, Matt Eberflus is a historically zone coverage guy. It just worries me, like, what are they going to do against Spags, who's going to come after them in ways that they're not familiar with? And yes, the Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has killed the Chiefs multiple times. I'm just worried about Kellen Moore's not calling plays. There was no RPO. There was no motion. There was no creativity in the offense. And 2 years ago, we saw this with the Eagles. They were a very bad team when they played good defensive schemes that got after them. It's why they hired Kellen Moore in the first place. And it makes me feel like in a year, we're going to have Mike McDaniel calling plays for the Eagles. That's kind of what I feel like is going to come, because they're going to be like, we're going to have to go way extreme, a different way. So it's tough. At least with the Chiefs, you'll get more man. So like AJ Brown and Devontae should have better opportunities. But if you're Spags, man, like I feel like you just go zone. You play like Dallas did. You trust that your D-line is going to figure it out.
This will be I'm excited to watch this game. I don't know how much exposure I'll have to it, Neil, but this is kind of a fascinating. I agree. Like on Tuesday mornings, I kind of like recap the week right on YouTube over on Spike Week, and that was I was like, sure, the Eagles, like as YouTube commenters tend to do, was like, why are you worried about the Eagles? They won. Right? They won. And I'm like, because they looked like, pardon my French, shit when they won. They probably should have lost. If Miles Sanders wasn't so awful, they might have lost that game to the Cowboys. So I'm like torn on this. It's possible, Neil, that this is like truly the greatest leverage play of the entire week. And it's also possible that we should be like, oh man, both of these are like, this is pretty concerning on both sides of the football, because 16 Hollywood targets feels good. Like in my spreadsheet, it doesn't feel so good watching it happen on the football field, you know?
Yeah, and they're probably going to scheme for Hollywood this week. They did not scheme for Hollywood at all last week, so it's going to be a different look. Yeah, I mean, again, I want to be clear that this is not like one of the games that I've been targeting and talking about all week. It's a game that, like, when you bring it up, it's like, yeah, I can see how the Eagles could crush here, and I do want to have some exposure to it. I think I want to have 3-5% Jalen Hurts. Just make sure that you have some exposure to it in case it does go completely off, which I think is just within the range of outcomes, even if it's not the game that I think is likeliest. There are a few games that I like better.
Yeah, I also think just pretty good prices on everybody. And like you said, I don't think I can genuinely tout the 49ers with Mac Jones because of the target consolidation and then not talk about the Philadelphia Eagles at like 2% ownership. Let's talk about some of these other running backs. Keep the questions coming in the chat. I promise we'll hit. Trent Williams is in, by the way, very notable. The Trent Williams splits are about as funny as the Mac Jones wide receiver one. Like, my God, the 49ers they turn into the Dolphins without Trent Williams. But at the running back position, Jordan, not CMC. We talked about Saquon as well. Where are we headed? You've mentioned Breece Hall already. Where are you headed in terms of your priority list after those guys?
It's hard not to talk about Chase Brown. Chuba ran well against them. There was a few 4th and 2 stops that made his yards per carry come down. He didn't get a whole lot of touches. Panthers are also missing their starting right tackle. Chase Brown's just in such an elite role against the Jaguars team at home. Like, it's pretty easy to look at him and like him. The other one that James, as much as I liked to say the Panthers added things on defense, they just could not tackle. The one thing about James Conner that I'm worried about is, like, everybody looks at Travis Etienne's day and like, oh my God, he gashed the Panthers. He had a 75-yard carry. James Conner's not getting a 75-yard carry.
That would be insane.
unless people are pulling hammies on the way chasing him. Like, he's just not capable. I think Chuba Hubbard he ran for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns and had a walk-off touchdown where he ran through like 3 different Cardinals players. Panthers are also expected to get Ike Ekwonu back, which is a massive piece to the offensive line. And one thing last week that the Panthers couldn't do was get into a rhythm offensively. And the way you get into a rhythm is you just start running the ball repeatedly. And this Cardinals defense, like, I'm worried about Tet this week. I don't think he's going to be very good against the corner Will Johnson. He looked phenomenal on that side of the ball. I do think the Panthers just have an advantage in the trenches. Last year we did as well. Other than that, though, there's not many running backs. Oh, ETN stands out as well. Like, I don't care that since he stopped the Browns rushing attack, the Browns rushing attack is just not very explosive. And if it becomes a game where it's, passing, like, ETN can get it done as a receiver as well. He looked like the 75-yard carry was extremely explosive. And that's something where I'm like, man, the Eagles can just get it going. Or not the Eagles, the Jaguars just continue to develop that scheme and trading Tanks Bigsby. Just feels like ETN's just, very good running back. Just, I don't know who takes the goal line from him. Like, Brashul Tutton and LaQuint Allen don't feel like goal line backs at all.
LaQuint has the size, but I'm not sure that it's I'm not sure that, like, in week 2, I think, again, this is one of those later in the season we might be talking differently about the Jaguars than we're talking about right now. I really like Travis Etienne. Forgive me if I'm not buying the Bengals defense just because, like, the Browns didn't score 40. I think it's going to be okay targeting the Bengals defense. So I agree. I like Etienne. Just to add to the Breece point about how bad the Bills were on defense, I think it was, of course, Lamar and Henry, but this is kind of like the dollar store version of Lamar and Henry. Like Jordan said, it's like they're gonna if you don't think the Jets, who ran a bunch of RPO, ran a bunch of zone read, right, use Justin Fields in this kind of creative way with Breece, if you don't think they saw that how well that worked, like, of course they're just going to keep going. Also, 71% of the Jets plays in week 1 were Breece carry, Justin Fields carry, Breece target, or Garrett Wilson target. It's like, you want to talk about condensed offenses. There's a sprinkle of some of these other guys. Josh Reynolds is out for this week, so not that he matters that much, but it is another body removed. The Bills also were like the worst defense in the history of football in week 1. 9 yards per play, allowing 9 yards per play is like truly insane. Like, they gave up 432 yards on 50 Ravens plays. Like, that's hard to do. So I'm a little bit worried about the Bills defense. I will also just add, I'm going to play Travion Henderson until I may be broke by then. We may be playing the quarter arcade in a couple months or something, but I'm going to play TreVeyon Henderson until it happens. There were some positive quotes right from Vrabel about like, okay, we we saw the Ramondre thing. Like maybe we got to get some more explosive guys on the field. And I am buying the Dolphins being a disaster. But how are you thinking about running back, Neil?
Yeah, love TreVeyon Henderson also. That is one that I, was like sort of considering it, and then the coach speak came out that's like, yeah, I think we're going to switch up how we use the running backs. Like that's enough. I'm in. He's 5,500. He might be 7,000 in 2 weeks. This might just end up being a price that's way too cheap for TreVeyon Henderson. Looks like he's got a lot of juice. If he gets the workload against this defense, he could just absolutely smash this Miami defense at relatively low ownership is what we're projecting. Breece Hall, agreed. Seems like a good spot for Breece Hall against this Bills defense. It scares me a little bit to try to assume that anybody's going to be able to replicate the Ravens, because I think that running attack is just like completely unstoppable with Lamar and
maybe the best ever.
And Derrick Henry.
Literally.
Yeah, literally might be the best ever. But like you said, this is sort of like the dollar store version of that with Justin Fields and Breece Hall. So I do like playing some Breece Hall as well. So yeah, a lot of the same names. I like the Chase Brown shout out, obviously against Jacksonville, looks good. Travis Etienne looks good. Trying to see if there's any others that, at one point I was saying RJ Harvey before I mentioned TreVeyon Henderson. I'm a little bit afraid of that coach speak. I think so they've got a great offensive line and they didn't really do anything last week, but I think somebody could pop for the Broncos if they just get opportunities. I'm not sure if that's going to be RJ Harvey or J.K. Dobbins. The coach speak now is like, oh, we'd really love to just use 2 running backs. Sean Payton, that's what we've done in the past. We've had success with that. It's like, oh, but if only we could only use 2 running backs, but we can't do it, obviously. Tyler Bidet, but he did specifically say that they need Tyler Bidet for like 3rd down situations against the Colts.
I love him in the pass game. Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to play RJ Harvey. I'll probably play a little bit of RJ Harvey, but I'm a little bit afraid that he's just going to be like a non-factor, because what if they're going, bringing it down to J.K. Dobbins and Tyler Bidet? On the other hand, what if they're bringing it down to Tyler Bidet and RJ Harvey, who had a 50-yard run last week, looked pretty good in his limited playing time last week. Now gets a better spot. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited about like somebody from the Broncos. If I could consolidate it and like knew who's going to get the work, if I could see like just the usage today, I would play the running back who's going to get work. I'm not super confident in it, so I can't go too hard in it, but I do think I'll have at least like a couple % exposure to both RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, just as kind of an off the wall large field tournament play, which again might be too fancy for week 2 when we have really soft pricing. I do need to acknowledge that like this could just be way too fancy here. I think Derrick Henry, again, just like Cleveland, not a great spot for Derrick Henry, but also like they're the biggest favorites on the slate. There should be running a ton. So gonna play some of Derrick Henry. I kind of like another like sort of off the wall play, I guess, is David Montgomery. I think this could be a spot where, David Montgomery going to get very, very little ownership. We saw in week 1 that it was Jahmyr Gibbs who had a better workload than he had last year, but they were also trailing that entire game. I think if the Lions are playing from ahead, we could get back to, the splits that we're used to with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And nobody ever wants to play David Montgomery, but he's a guy who can put up 2 touchdowns in a game and it doesn't surprise anybody. So I think that he's kind of an off the wall play that I like a little bit. I guess I'll stop there.
Any Javonte? Just I want to hit while we're on the running backs. Shannon asked about Javonte. I mean, the role is clearly very good, but like, do we care? Right? It's Javonte.
Maybe I'll have a little bit. He's one that I talked with Scott Barrett. He really liked Javonte this week. I'm gonna be so mad if it's Javonte because I want to play the Dallas passing game. I want them to switch up from week 1 to week 2, and I think the passing game is just so much better than their running game. It should not be Javonte. He could just fall into a couple touchdowns again. He's never gonna rush like for a ton of like long plays. His explosive run rate's never gonna be great. I don't know if he gets enough volume. I guess it could happen, but I'm not buying it.
He feels James Connery to me. Like you said, like, I don't know, the spot seems fine. The role seems fine. Dare I say he and Derrick Henry a little better on FanDuel, right? The whole, like, just, I'm not sure that these spots are awesome for those guys, but like when you have those roles, when you are that style of a back, like if you have like 100 total yards, but 2 or 3 touchdowns, right? You just luck your way into that on FanDuel, on DraftKings, right? The CMCs of the world and Trevion Henderson barely played and had 6 targets. Like these guys just have such strong passing game roles that those kind of players don't have.
Yeah, obviously the Javonte, it's like the Javonte Williams games will be dictated by how good Dallas is in the trenches. I will say they impressed me a lot. I thought they were going to be a really good team. Like Jerry Jones, as comical as he is phenomenal at building offensive lines throughout the years. Like that is just what Dallas scouts really, really well. And like we can make fun of Tyler Booker being a first round pick, but like they just dominated the Eagles in the trenches. Like they controlled the game, and it's going to be one of those like, it feels like Miles Sanders on the Eagles. Like he's going to probably get like super efficient 1,000 yards, but he's never going to do it after the contact. Like Miles Sanders broke long runs, which is different, but Javonte is just going to be able to get, like, you give him 3 yards before he gets hit, he's going to get you 5.
like a success rate god, but not like a, but that's a lot of team environment, not just him. Yeah, I think he's
Dexter Lawrence. And Dexter Lawrence is a mammoth. Like if he spits on Dak, then he's going to go for a lot of yards. Like you just can't spit on Dak. That's important.
That was, I don't know if anybody listened. I know we got a lot to get to, but the Kelsey's podcast, and Jason Kelsey was all fired up about, because Dak did, like, they're like, how could they didn't show us the full picture? Dak spit towards him, and then Jalen Carter spit on Dak, and it was like, the salty Eagles people are like, why wasn't that a penalty on Dak? And it's like, well, they didn't see it, obviously, that's why. But just funny. I mean, we opened the season with guys spitting on each other. Welcome to the NFL. Let's see. Let's do some stacks and receivers. Again, keep your questions coming in the chat. We're going to hit some quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends here, our favorite games. We've talked a little bit, Neil, about Jags, Bengals, which clearly I think pops off the screen. You clearly like Cowboys. We already talked about Eagles and Chiefs and stuff, but where are you like prioritizing? Is it that Jags Bengals game that's kind of your first go-to stack from a passing game perspective?
Yeah, I would say it's Jags Bengals is the primary game that I'm going to, just 2 potentially really bad defenses. The Jaguars might be better than they were last year defensively, but I don't think we know that yet after they faced Carolina. So I really like both of those passing games. That's the game that I'm actually targeting all sides, passing games, running games. Just going to have a ton of Jaguars Bengals in general. And then, like you mentioned, Dallas, I'm playing a ton of Dak with either or both of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Just think somebody's going to go off in that Dallas passing game. And I think they're aggressive. I think they're going to be, even if they get ahead, I think they're going to continue throwing on the Giants. So I'm pretty excited about the Dallas passing game. I like Josh Allen, and I do think I'm with Jordan in playing Josh Palmer with Josh Allen rather than Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman going to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner here, so I think it could be just like one more reason to play Josh Palmer. He's going to be contrarian. I think they could really just mesh really well here. And also, this is one, and now I'm forgetting the name now of the new defensive coordinator for the Jets. But he's historically been given up a ton of fantasy points to rushing quarterbacks. Some of the Scott Barrett and the fantasy points guys are talking about this. Rushing quarterbacks just historically have a ton of success against this defensive coordinator because he's really aggressive, like blitzes, like just super aggressive, which allows rushing quarterbacks to just have to, forces them to kind of run rather than having time to throw. So I really like Josh Allen in general because I think he's going to be having to run a little bit more, and then also like him with Josh Palmer because Keon Coleman's going to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner. So that one kind of stands out to me. And then Patriots, actually, again, we talk about this Miami defense potentially being really bad. I think Drake May really underwhelmed in week 1, but I think he's probably just inconsistent at this point. I think that he has potential. I think he can run a little bit, and then now it just gets this awesome matchup with the Dolphins defense. Kayshon Boutte went off in week 1, and it might be just a small sample size, nothing, but also it could be something. Like he is a guy that had high pedigree. He went off towards the end of last year at times also, and this is another spot where, and this is shared with me from Derek Brown, shared that the Dolphins blitzed at the highest rate last week in the NFL, and when the Patriots get blitzed, Kayshon Boutte's target share leads the team. So like just a kind of a sneaky spot for Kayshon Boutte with Drake May, and then I think you can also include Trevion Henderson in those stacks. So those are a few that I like.
I love the famous last words. This is like touting Kyle Pitts. This is like touting, whatever. I used to tout, right? We showed up for week 1 and Bobby's like, I bet Erik likes the Saints because the vomit stacks are kind of my thing. I'm not sure I would classify the Patriots as a vomit stack, but I love the Patriots today. Jordan, I agree with absolutely everything that Neil says. I of course love Travion. You can play Travion with Drake May, and Kayshon Boutte is my favorite wide receiver play for the Patriots. I think if there is a guy who breaks the slate, like it's not that Stephon Diggs can't have a good game. It's not that Hunter Henry can't have a good game. If there's a guy who comes out and catches 2 long touchdowns, because that's kind of what his role is, the high A-dot shot player against that blitzing defense, I think it's Kayshon Boutte. I don't know if it's Kayshon Boutte is the Jake Bobo special that Shiv Daddy is saying there, but I do like to get into the bag a little bit with some of those guys. But I think getting out ahead of a couple things, Kayshon Boutte's role, Travion Henderson's potential growing role, Drake May's like kind of bipolar nature, like Neil talked about, and this Dolphins just like absolute disaster. We talked about it last week. It was either we're all wrong and it's not a disaster, or it is. There was really no middle ground. And unfortunately for Jordan's Miami Dolphins, yes, they're Jordan's Miami Dolphins, it didn't go so well. It was quite bad for Miami. So I actually don't think the Miami guys are like completely horrible tournament plays, but I think the Patriots are like one of my big priorities today.
So when it comes to the Dolphins, I obviously just Mike McDaniel and that scheme. Oh my God. Also Tua, just so many lapses that we can speak.
Tua was bad. Tua did not help him. Yeah.
No, it was just, like they couldn't see a corner blitz. Like they showed it free. Like there's I don't know how you don't slide protection. That's a veteran quarterback thing. I guess Tua's just not a veteran quarterback. But also fun fact about Kayshon Boutte, he's 2 years younger than Ricky Pearsall. Kayshon Boutte was a 5-star. Like he was the Malik Neighbors for LSU.
Yeah,
it was. He just his foot got messed up, and some dudes don't recover. Some dudes recover later. Like it feels like to me, like Neil is saying, like Kayshon Boutte's been really good lately, and it's small sample. It's like he might they traded Polk. Like they cut Kendrick Bourne. Like this guy just might be good at football. And yeah, the Dolphins couldn't cover the RotoGrinders team in a 7-on-7 competition. It feels like it's just like the pass rush was just like Daniel Jones just got to sit there, bounce around, relax, like hang out, smoke a cigarette, and then throw the ball. So it's kind of like Dolphins have to play better this week. There's just no way that it gets, because they play the Bills on Thursday. We're getting Neil gets a good old showdown slate with Dolphins Bills. I'm sure that won't be a massacre. But Drake May, Travion Henderson, and Kayshon Boutte stack I think is viable.
That's one of my favorites. It's really it's also like an alternative cheap way to some of the cheap chalk.
Yeah.
Right. Getting away from some of what, if people are going to play Mac Jones to get their savings or Harold Fannin or something else, you can kind of get it seems like a good thing to attack the Dolphins. I'm not saying like, oh, look at just last week, this is what happened, but it's one of those, like the field is like the Patriots are not going to be unowned, but the field is not like, oh yeah, we gotta attack the Dolphins every week. Right. We may look back in a few weeks and like, why weren't we just stacking against the Dolphins every single week again? Right. Yeah. Like Mike McDaniel's fired and they're a disaster and Tyreek suspended, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is all just, the house is not on fire. It's burned to the ground in a few weeks. So any that we didn't touch on, Neil, that we've touched the Lions a little bit. I think we should talk about the Lions in terms of like bounce back spots. You hit on if believing in the Patriots because the Dolphins are a disaster in week 1, I think believing in or holding out hope for the Lions because of how good the Packers look, I think is like, I watched Thursday Night Football and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to play some Lions in week 2 after watching that. Was that a similar takeaway you had?
Yeah, 100%. That was just like, this offense might still be really good, and we just don't know it because they faced a really good Packers defense. Bears defense, I think, is also a pretty strong defense, despite what JJ McCarthy did to them. JJ McCarthy is just awesome. People need to accept it. He's the man. So I think it's not particularly
the Michael Parsons antidote is what JJ McCarthy is going to be. Exactly.
No, but I do think it is a better matchup pretty clearly for the Lions here. And I'm not totally buying into Ben Johnson was the whole reason they were great last year. Maybe like we'll find out pretty quickly if that was the case, but I don't think we can take that much away from week 1. So yeah, I like the Lions quite a bit. I think JMO just always a fun play with some spike week potential. You can play Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can play Sam Laporta, you can stack them up with Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of different ways you can play the Lions passing attack, which is also pretty fun. Even I'm probably not playing Isaac Tesla. They're saying he's going to get more work going forward. Like, he just looks so good. Every opportunity he's had in the NFL with the Lions, he's looked awesome. I'm not buying that he's DFS viable yet, because I don't think he's going to be like a 70% route share type player. I think increased participation probably means he's running 30% of the routes or something, which is just not enough for a main slate, more of a showdown type play. But yeah, I like the Lions passing game quite a bit. I like the Dolphins call out as one you can play. Trying to see if there's any others that I'm like, I don't know if there's any others that I'm super, I mean, Carolina, I guess, just because, or sorry, Arizona, because Carolina's defense is just one that you can kind of always target, and more people going to be playing it on the ground. Sorry, Jordan. I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ.
It's true though, right?
Like two different shots at different times. It was just like, come on, man. Like,
when you tout the
crazy.
Dolphins in week 1 and you're a Panthers fan, it's going to be a tough start to the season.
Oh no,
okay?
that was dude. At least I said to fade the Bengals. At least that was one thing I got right. It felt like. I mean, I just would. I don't know why I didn't get to more Daniel Jones. It's actually one of the funnier things. Like, I don't know if you guys do it when the pricing comes out. You build a lineup.
Mm-hmm, of course.
The first lineup I built was Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, with no Dolphins. I actually was just like, and I was playing like, and I think that lineup would have outscored everything I built last week. So that's always a fun one. Shout out Tuttle for getting fourth, I think, in the fourth in the $5,
something like that.
He was in second until the Broncos ruined his life. But
yeah, exactly.
He's been crushing it lately.
I actually think the Dolphins were a really good call in week 1. I actually think they're kind of interesting as bringbacks to the Patriots this week, where last week, everything that you said last week about the Dolphins rings true this week, except probably on steroids. Where now everybody was like really worried about the Dolphins. Now it's you're not going to find a person that's like, oh, I believe. Right. Every single person is like, okay, so when's Mike McDaniel going to get fired? Where's Tua going to get traded to? Right. All that, that's the talk. And it's like, well, the Patriots did just get torched by Geno Smith in the passing game. Like, if somebody gets home, you can't be worse than last week. It just truly can't be worse. So like, somebody might get home here from the Dolphins. I think probably more of a large field play, right? But I mean, $6,400 Tyreek. If you thought $6,700 Tyreek was a good deal, wait till he's $5,200 or whatever in a couple weeks. A couple other spots I just wanted to bring up, more so like a game stacking side of things. We talked about Brees and Justin Fields. Garrett Wilson is a pretty big target dominator. And while I like the Jets running game, I don't exactly fear the Bills pass defense either. Go check out what Zay Flowers did on in that Sunday night football game. And then a bunch of people have asked to kind of bleed into some of the questions about Flacco and the Browns, which we have, of course, not really talked about that game much yet. Jordan, what do you think about the just overall Browns-Ravens game from like a stacking perspective?
So the Browns defense, I think, still has like that edge to them. Like it's one of those teams that last week I was fearful because they are that good on defense. Like they beat this Ravens team last year. That was one of their few wins of the season. I don't know from a stacking perspective. Like, I like Zay Flowers. I don't mind Derrick Henry. I don't think I'm getting to Derrick Henry just because, like, Derrick Henry explodes in games where you can't get to him before he gets 3 yards down the field. That is what Derrick Henry is. If you don't get to his legs or don't make him change where he's going, he is going to have a 60-yard touchdown run. The Bills just always allow him to do it. I don't understand how they stopping Derrick Henry. Who am I to say? I'm probably die if I try to tackle Derrick Henry. But this game, like, I liked a lot of what I saw from the Browns defense. The one thing that they always have issues with, and it's funny, Denzel Ward has a harder time covering Zay Flowers than he does Jamar Chase. And that is just a stylistic, the way he goes. And also, Lamar Jackson runs around a lot, so it's hard to guard someone for longer. Joe Burrow's not going to do that. So like I like Zay a lot to an extent, but as far as this game environment, like I didn't really feel like I wanted to go there. I could see it hurting me, but I also just think that out of the top tier environments with ownership involved, this is just one I'm just not getting to. Jerry Jeudy's a fine play. I think he's in a good spot to bounce back, but Jair Alexander being out doesn't do anything. That actually might help the Ravens for a little bit because him playing hurt was a problem last week. I think this is one of the Flacco letdown spots. Like Ravens defense at the high price is probably my favorite of the top tier defenses, I should say.
I like it. Neil, I will just add my boy Harold Fannin had a really nice. That was a lot of fun in week 1. He had a bad drop that really, I get you first world problems. The guy has 9 targets and I'm complaining, but we could have had a bigger. It's a Wildcat playing some Wildcat quarterback. That was insane. That was crazier than even I thought last week. But
it's fun.
The field is now interested in Harold Fannin, and I think a Bengals matchup is quite different from a Bengals defense that could not get the Browns off the field. I know that the Browns turned it over and lost the game, missed a field goal, whatever, but the Bengals couldn't stay on the field. The Browns, they couldn't get the Browns off the field. I think it's a very different situation here today. So I'm pretty opposed to even my boy Fannin. I know he's cheap. I think there's just some other tight ends I like. Anything we missed in this game.
I know we're talking about tight ends now, but also got to give you props for your Dylan Sampson call last week. You were the first person I ever heard mention Dylan Sampson on any content on this show last week. I was in on Jerome Ford all week, and that went poorly for me. But Dylan Sampson worked out in a pretty big way.
It would have been nice if Sampson, gained some rushing yardage.
It would have been cool if he had got some rushing yards. Yeah, that would have been awesome too. Did it all through the air. Yeah, I think Fannin, I mean, he's not projected for like crazy high ownership. Like from a tight end perspective, he's one of the highest ownerships. I think I'll have some Fannin. He's not like a priority for me, again, because he is getting ownership. But we might just find out that he's 3,100 and he's just one of the elite tight ends who should be 6,000. Like we might find that out pretty quickly with Fannin. So I'm not opposed to playing him while he is just a little bit too cheap, even in a tough matchup. If they're going to use him like they used him last week, kind of similar to CMC, it's like he was just going to get enough targets at 3,100, difficult to fail too hard. Obviously, if we're playing tournaments, we need big ceilings also, so the floor is not what you're shooting for. But I don't think he's going to be like a huge letdown, or he might be. Again, it depends on how they end up using him. But I think he is a fine play at 3,100, where he's not projected for like crazy high ownership. Sorry, did you say you want me to talk about the Browns game in general, or
was there just anything like, are you higher, on Henry, Lamar, Zay, Browns? Is there anything in this one? Because we got a bunch of Flacco questions and some questions on this game, so I just wanted to make sure we touched on it. Yeah, no, I think you did a good job of touching on everything. I think Cedric Tillman is again cheap and probably going to be pretty involved. I think maybe might be their wide receiver 1 in Cleveland, pretty close between him and Judy. And then David Njoku, I will just shout out as he's still out there, he's still running the routes, and like now people are like, oh well, Harold Fannin is the tight end 1, but they're really playing different positions out there. So David Njoku now just going to get lower ownership and still relatively inexpensive, but it's not a game that I'm super targeting just because I think the Browns do have a strong defense. Jordan, we got to do some tight ends, we got to do defenses, and I want to hit as many questions as we can from the chat. Any wide receivers that aren't necessarily like that we haven't touched on that are like priorities for you today? They don't have, you're maybe not playing the quarterback, you're maybe not stacking the game, but just some wide receivers that you're interested in.
We touched on Kayshon Boutte. Trying to think. Josh Palmer was the start of the show. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anybody that stands out. Diggs, like he didn't look great week 1, but I mean, again, we say the Dolphins can't cover the RotoGrinders team, so I don't think they can cover Stephon Diggs. Other than that, there wasn't anybody that stood out too big for me personally.
Well, as we've seen from my back and forth with Kevin Roth, there's a lot of talent that we got going on the RotoGrinders team. I don't think Stephon Diggs is a locked-in starter on the RG team. But Neil, any other wide receivers that you're playing today that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, we've touched on a lot of them. I'll throw, Calvin Ridley is a fine play. I think now that he's not being covered by Patrick Surtain, I think the volume is going to be there for Calvin Ridley. Still not a great matchup with the Rams, but I think he's a fine play. JSN, Scott Barrett referring to him now as mini Puka because JSN's usage in week 1 just looked like it is going to be Puka-esque. The Sam Darnold quotes after the game make it sound like he just wants to get the ball to JSN. Like that's the game plan. Joey Porter Jr. out for Pittsburgh, so it's a little bit of a better matchup. Love it whenever there's a starting defensive player out, and then it's just like a huge downgrade a lot of the time when it's a star, especially like Joey Porter Jr. So I do think JSN is pretty intriguing. Olave was targeted a lot, not a huge priority for me, but Romo Dunze at 4,800 feels a little bit underpriced in a game that I'm targeting a bit. I think he'll be a bring back in some of my lineups. Again, Devontae Adams, again, like they're talking about like we need to get him more involved. What was the quote that came out today, I think? And who knows? He's 5,900. It's not a great matchup, not like a huge priority for me. I think we've covered like the priority plays for me. I'm just trying to throw out some other names that kind of stand out as like, yeah, I'm going to make sure I get to some of this guy. Obviously, we talked about George Pickens as a player that I like quite a bit. And then JMO, we again talked about that game, but just want to reiterate, I like JMO at 5,700. But yeah, I think we basically covered the like true priorities for me.
Yeah, I think I'm on the exact same page. I have just a little sprinkling of Travis Hunter because in that game, I think, he's basically a full-time offensive player playing, and we'll see. There's a talk about error bars. Good Lord. I mean, I have no idea what to expect week to week from Travis Hunter. This feels like a game on one hand, you could say go cover Jamar Chase, but on the other, be like, please help us stay in the game against Jamar Chase on offense. I think he's going to have some big games and absolutely no one is interested in playing Travis Hunter. We briefly touched on T Higgins, but if you can't get to Jamar Chase, I mean, T has nuclear ceiling as well in that game. And everybody, myself included, likes to go to Jamar Chase a little bit more. Malik Neighbors, Russ is terrible. The Giants are terrible. There's no Andrew Thomas, but that Matt Eberflus defense that Jordan was mentioning is like a take every 5-yard catch you want. You can have them, right? And like, we're not going to give up the home run balls. And like, well, if they're going to throw the short stuff, it's like they got Neighbors and Wandale to do that. Neighbors is the one who can do something with it after the catch, right? He turned Drew Lock into a tournament winning quarterback by taking a hitch 70 yards to the house in week 17 of last year. So there's just like a lot of good wide receiver plays, some that we probably haven't even touched on. So it is a position while Puka looks awesome, while someone talked about Kevin Ridley, while Hollywood Brown certainly projects well, I do like getting away certainly from too much chalk in the same lineup because there's just so many high upside plays and not everybody can be owned. Neil, kick us off with some tight ends that we haven't touched on. How are you approaching tight end this week? And I'll get some questions ready.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Harold Fannin, Trey McBride, kind of the other one that you kind of need to talk about. Those are going to be the two highest owned tight ends. Trey McBride, again, playing Carolina, which unfortunately, I'm so sorry to say it, Jordan. It's a great matchup for Trey McBride. I think that he's live to score a touchdown here and break the slate. So, yeah, I do like both Harold Fannin and Trey McBride. In general, I think I'm going to be pretty spread out at tight end this week. I think I'm going to be largely playing tight ends with my quarterback. I'd like to be excited about Tyler Warren. I think he looked awesome in week 1. I think he's going to bury me from a best ball perspective because I didn't draft a ton of him. This is, I don't think, the best matchup for him against Denver. So not a huge priority for me. Kelsey, similarly, like he's probably going to be targeted a lot. I don't think he looks great, but at 5,000, I think he's viable at relatively low ownership. I don't think it's a great Jake Ferguson spot. I think it's mostly the receivers here for me, but he's only 3,800, viable. Sam Laporta, viable. Jawan Johnson's usage last week looked completely awesome. That seems to be legit. I think he might be taking a step forward this year. So not the best matchup, but somebody that I will make sure I have some. And then Brenton Strange, again, against that Cincinnati defense, he's only 3,600, a guy that we're expecting to take a little bit of a leap this year. I think that that's a spot that we can attack for a cheap tight end. And then, of course, Hunter Henry is another play that you can throw into. We've talked about how much we like New England. I think Hunter Henry fits as well as anybody as a player who just could lead the team in targets. I think he's a strong tight end play. But yeah, mostly I'm going to be stacking in the game stack with my quarterback.
I like it, Jordan. I will just say, anytime Miami and tight end gets mentioned, just the saga that is Darren Waller is the most Miami Dolphins story ever. Like that is like more than Tyreek, more than all this other stuff. That Darren Waller 2025 is just like the absolute perfect way to describe the Dolphins. But he's obviously not in play. Who are you interested in? Anyone that Neil did mention or did not?
Oh, I mean, Trey McBride, I'll slam home on top of. Cover 3 is pretty much Panthers live in. last year, Trey McBride dominated the targets, averaged over 2.9 yards per route run against cover 3 coverage. He's the easy play for me that I'm getting to quite a bit just because of all the value elsewhere. I think Evan Ingram, I know he had a calf injury and it like was a weird spot for him last week. I think like the Colts, we don't know if they're good at guarding tight ends because Miami doesn't have one. So it's kind of like, let's see it. Like I would test it a little bit. He's an intriguing one. Hunter Henry's, I think, really good. But yeah, pairing Dalton Kincaid with Josh Allen makes sense. Not really interested in anybody else really that lower. Brent Strange, I think, is a good one to mention with Trevor Lawrence. His role looked pretty good last week. He unfortunately just didn't catch the touchdowns because that's just what happens with tight ends a lot of the time. I don't know if you guys saw like the Rams throw a touchdown to a tight end and it was like not Tyler Higbee, not for Travis Ferguson or whatever his name is. And then it's like, I think Davis Allen, the guy from Clemson like 5 years ago. So tight end position, I'm just going to play Trey McBride because if it's what's his name? Higgins, who used to play for the Dolphins, that ends up scoring, or Joe Tippmann that scores, then so be it. I think Trey McBride will be still pretty good, even though if he doesn't find the end zone.
I don't have any super. I agree with absolutely everything you guys have both said here. If I had to give a super strong tight end take, it would be a little bit similar. You could make this case about the quarterbacks, where sure we can do the Drake May thing, right? The anti like Drake May, definitely the anti Mac Jones, the anti whatever. You say like, Lamar and Allen are just 7,000. It's like we're talking about soft pricing. They're part of the reason why the pricing is soft. You could just say, right, Joe Burrow is right, Jalen Hurts. You can easily fit the elites. I feel it a little bit more at the tight end position because there's no one else. Like these other guys are like, we like them for the price. They might score a touchdown. Maybe they're in the right game environment. Trey McBride is if he catches 13 balls today, it wouldn't be that surprising. Like he could just like go absolutely nuclear. Most of those other guys need touchdowns. This dude could do it just by being the engine of an offense. And I don't think any of those other guys are going to be like the total engine of the offense. And he's only 6,000 on DraftKings. He's 7,000 on FanDuel. I don't think the price is appropriate. I will just say I'm not doing the Travis Kelce thing. If it happens, I'll wave the white flag. I watched that and like, no, man, no.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
It was bad.
It was really, really rough. Let's do defense, and then we'll hit some questions, and then we'll bring on crunch time here. Just quick, Jordan, we'll go to you first because you kind of teased a defense earlier. What's your favorite defenses to play?
I saw Chad arguing about it, like, the guys, there's a little bit banged up secondary, different things. It's Seattle. That Steelers O-line is not very good. Broderick Jones, you just beat him like a drum. Or McDonald. This is a team that's not going to give you man coverage. And Aaron Rodgers, I feel the pick six. Like I could see like this not going well for the Steelers after like, we're such an explosive offense. It's like, no, you just played exactly what Aaron Rodgers likes. This is a game where I see sacks, picks, turnovers. I just can't imagine that they get it going. Or the Steelers have a lot to do this week on offense. That is like Aaron Rodgers couldn't escape. Like the Jets, every time I got to him, he was down. So I like the Seattle defense quite a bit this weekend.
Neil, favorite defense or defenses today?
Yeah, I throw out 49ers against the Saints, and Spencer Rattler I think looks like a strong one. I think you can play Cardinals against Carolina. Both the Rams and the Titans. I mean, come on.
If you're going to be one nice thing, I said nice things about JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, that's because he's a winning quarterback. He is undefeated in the NFL. How could you not say nice things about JJ McCarthy? I think I'm excited about Ted McMillan. I think Teteroa McMillan is going to be an awesome receiver in the NFL. In some matchups, I will be targeting Teteroa McMillan. So there you go. And I'm a huge. I won't say it on a rotor. I'm a huge Jalen Coker fan. So whenever he's healthy, I might get back into to playing some Panthers. And then I mentioned the Titans are inexpensive. They're another defense that I like in this spot against the Rams. But yeah, love the Seahawks call also.
I will just say I was like semi-hopeful for a second-year leap from Xavier Legette, and that was so bad in week one.
The effort was so just didn't care. I don't know.
He also is unaware that you have to get 2 feet down in the NFL. like I'm not sure if he understands when you're on the sideline, you got to get 2 feet down before they'll give you a catch. And then he always complains about it too. He's like the guy who pretends he got fouled in the NBA. It's like, oh, okay, you got to call this. And I'm like, dude, you have to get 2 feet. You don't understand this? It's crazy. I will toss. You talked about the defense, the Ravens. I think it's very easy to afford whatever really defense you want. And I'm pretty interested in fading this Browns and fading kind of the Ravens defense being bad in week 1. But I also really like the Broncos. I mean, I think the Broncos maybe the Packers have dispelled this, but I think the Broncos are right there as one of the best defenses in the NFL and kind of fading I've heard more like maybe the Colts are good on offense. And it's like, let's combine the Dolphins thing with like, this is still Daniel Jones. I mean, like, give me this maybe best defense in the NFL against Daniel Jones when no one's going to play them. I know it's a road game, et cetera, but I like the Broncos quite a bit. All right, let's rapid fire some questions before we bring in crunch time. Neil, we talked about liking Detroit, and like you talked about Rome Odunze. Are you going to play any Goff or Caleb?
Yes, Goff, probably not Caleb.
Jordan, in a Cowboys stack, would you play Wandale as a bringback?
No, I don't. I would rather just get to Neighbors. That's the way the game shoots out. And Neighbors has no problem against those DBs.
That fingers. If the answer is Wandale over Neighbors, I think I'm in a lot of trouble in a lot of different formats of fantasy this year. Neil, what about Diggs? We talked about Booty. We talked about Travion. Are you playing Diggs?
It crossed my mind that I'm like, man, I'm getting so excited about Keyshawn Booty at like the same nearly the same price. I don't remember the exact price, but yeah, Diggs, like I don't think he had a full route participation last week, so I think that's the reason that I am. Let me just pull it up here real quick.
It's like 60%. It's like 60,
yeah, so it's he's returning from injury. Maybe he continues to take another step forward, but yeah, he did have 7 targets. So actually, yes, I think that he is a viable part of the stack. Had 7 targets on limited route participation. Maybe as he's healthier, he'll get more route participation. So I like that as like you can certainly play some Diggs at low ownership.
Jordan, could you play the Saints and hope Saints defense and hope that this Mac Jones thing goes terribly bad?
No, I don't. Kyle Shanahan's not going to allow him to kind of do that. Kyle Shanahan is just one of those guys that like he understands the way this is what you're doing, and I'm just not letting you do anything else. And if they have to, they'll run the ball 45 times. They will only throw it 10 times. Like they don't care. Just as long as they win.
On that note, Neil, if you are playing some 49ers, are there any Saints that you will play as bringbacks to the 49ers?
I think Olave is viable. He was targeted quite a bit last week. And then Juwan Johnson also. I mean, Kamara, just due to target volume. I think all 3 are like viable, but I'm not forcing to bring back in my San Francisco stacks.
Just a couple more, and then we are going to bring the crunch time team in here. Jake Ferguson at all, Neil? I know you're super bullish on the Cowboys, but any Jake Ferguson alongside your Dak, CD Pickens?
Maybe a little bit, but the reason I like them is because of how good the receivers are against single high, and that does not apply to Ferguson to the same extent. So he's not a priority, but he's like fine because I'm playing Dak. I'll mix him in here and there.
Makes sense. Aaron, I will answer this question. Is Ridley the most projected owned wide receiver? He was for most of the week. Now he's like in the top, 5 to 10, but not the single highest. Speaking of single high, no pun intended. Calvin Ridley is not the highest owned wide receiver. And then Jordan, last one, Tillman and Tyreek or JSN and Keon. I assume DraftKings.
That's Tillman and Tyreek. I think it mainly is like I think Sauce Gardner could blank Keon this week. Like Keon's going to get targets, and it's going to be contested targets. Whether he comes down with it is to be determined. I think that's just how he's going to win, and everybody that believes in separation, you have to win with separation, is going to hate him forever. But like this is just who he is. Like it's one of those things. Like Mike Evans makes a lot of plays that he doesn't separate. He makes a lot of plays where he separates, but he also makes a ton of plays where it's like just mossing people, and that's kind of Keon Coleman. Also, I'll say a fun note: this is the most number 1 overall pick going up against each other that Schefter just tweeted out. I did not realize we have 4 different games where it's former number 1 overall picks going head to head with Bryce and Kyler, Caleb and Goff, Lawrence and Burrow, and then Stafford and Cam Ward.
Wow.
That's wild.
Fun.
Also, the most underwhelming group of first overall picks
For real,
against each other. that I can remember. Stafford's one of the best, and he's 40 years old and with a creaky. He's walking around with a cane after the game is over. But it is very fun. Let's go ahead and bring in Crunch Time. Keep your questions coming. Donnie, I see him. TJ and the Crunch Time crew will get you guys all set up with your questions that we did not get to leading up to lock. But let's go ahead and talk to the Crunch Time folks. All right, guys. Kristi, it's wonderful to see you. Kyle, it's wonderful to see you. TJ, I've seen you too much over the course of the last few weeks. So we'll kick it to these other fine folks. Kristi, how are we feeling? How was week one?
Week one was actually pretty good, but I really liked the second week here too. So I'm kind of excited to break it down. Caught the end of your show. A lot of great takes. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That remains to be seen, Kristi. We'll find that out in a few hours.
I like him.
Yeah,
he had the Fannin call. Had the Fannin call last week, so it was awesome.
Broken clock, blind squirrel, all that fun stuff, kind of stuff. But Kyle, how you feeling? How was week one for you? And then how you feeling? Everybody's sentiment seems to be like we're all very excited for week two. It's like a very fun slate, like from a game theory perspective. Are you feeling kind of the same way?
Yeah, week two is usually one of my favorite weeks just because it's like national overreaction week from week one. So I like the slate a lot. I'm excited to talk about it.
So I also just realized because we were running over, Neil, Jordan, we didn't give a bold call. Let's sign off with the bold call, and now you have to do it in front of these three people, so you can't pretend like they didn't hear you for next week. Jordan, I'll let you go last since I made you go first last week, and you're a Panthers fan that you've suffered enough. Neil, what are we thinking?
Man, as tempted as I am to give a Patriots call, I'm just going to go Dak double stack breaks the slate. It's going to be Dak with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. They're not projected for a ton of ownership, and I think they could just crush in this game. So that's what I'm going with.
I am going with the Patriots. Drake May throws 2 touchdowns to Kayshon Boutte today. Big Patriots day against this corpse of a Miami Dolphins team. Jordan, go ahead.
I think Neil takes 2 shots at the Panthers every single week instead of actually being nice. But no, I think Josh Palmer has over 100 yards and a touchdown this week. Against that man coverage, he just kind of gets schemed up stuff. And we saw it from Calvin Austin last week. Why can't we see it from Josh Palmer this week?
I love it. All right, TJ, I do love you. We'll get out of here. Crunch Time got you guys handled all the way up to lock. We appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Neil versus Jordan is a rivalry I didn't expect this season, but I gotta say I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see this blossom and grow throughout the season in the GPP Final Takes show. But now it is time for Crunch Time. We will take you through position by position, give you our favorite plays, and we will also take all of your questions. I'll be going to the free RotoGrinders live stream Discord first. I'll go to the YouTube chat second. YouTube, all we ask is that you are smashing that like button for us. Hit the notification bell and subscribe, but help us battle that YouTube algorithm. Hit the like button. Help us out for some free content on a Sunday morning. My name is TJ Zwarych, joined by 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. First up, we have the incredible Kristi Metzger. How you doing, Kristi?
I'm doing great. First Crunch Time show of the season, and great to see both of you guys. And yeah, it's always kind of fun to do the last minute takes and sleepers and things like that. So great to see you both.
And I'm thrilled as well because not only do we have these 2 wonderful people joining me, but it's 2 of you, which is wonderful because when these bots come attacking in the YouTube chat, it is so hard to talk and delete them at the same time. So thankfully, we have the wonderful, the knowledgeable Kyle Murray helping us out today as well. How you doing, Kyle?
Wow, I'm blushing. That's quite the intro. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. First NFL show for me as well this year. So excited to talk about it, and I'll lead this up to lock.
Let's do it. Let's start getting into it. Before we start talking the specific positions, I do want to know who everybody is targeting for some stacks today. Who are the stacks you want the best? And so maybe mix that into kind of general overview. Kyle, I'll throw that to you first. How do you think this slate's going to play out?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the top, I kind of mentioned that week 2 is normally like a big overreaction week from week 1, and I think that's sort of the case. But for the overlying, I guess, issue of the stacking portion of the slate, this Jacksonville-Cincinnati game is going to be quite popular. Obviously, highest game total on the board by 2 points. Both of these teams really struggled in week 1. So this is a spot where the public is not seemingly overreacting too much. It should be very popular, but you could also make the case that it would be more popular if these teams had successful games in week 1. So that's the one spot that I'm looking at, obviously in a big way to stack, but hopefully stack in a unique way. So both sides of that game. Also love the Dallas stack in this one. And then after that, I think there's a lot of spots to get creative throughout stacking, and I'm sure I'll definitely touch on that more in the quarterback spots.
Kristi, how about you? Who are you looking to stack up today? And then what's your general overview?
Yeah, a lot of similarities too. I really like the call. Obviously, it's going to be very popular, but obviously the Bengals Jags is going to be a great stacking game. I also throw in San Francisco in there. I think with Mac Jones minimum price over on DraftKings in particular, just a lot of great ways to go. No Kittle, no Purdy, no Ayuk. So I think there's just a lot of interesting ways to get into some of the top players. So I like that quite a bit. And I know the show before talked about Dallas, and you guys have mentioned him too, but I do think that is a little bit of a sneaky stack too. Getting CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, even Javonte Williams, some of those guys. And then I think too, pricing is pretty soft. So getting the guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, pretty easy to do just because there is a lot of value. So those are some of the stacks that I'm looking to.
All right, let's start getting into position by position here. We will do inside. I think the flow of this will go a little bit better. Instead of doing DraftKings then FanDuel or FanDuel then DraftKings, let's do quarterbacks, DraftKings FanDuel, running backs, DraftKings FanDuel, and just kind of go position by position, but do one site after the other before we switch over to the next position. So starting up at quarterback on FanDuel, Kyle, who would be your cash game quarterback today? If you were are you running a cash game? Let the people know how you play if this is their first time watching you. And who would be your kind of optimal tier 1 quarterback that you'd be prioritizing today? And is it the 4K Mac Jones in that scenario?
It wouldn't be Mac Jones. If I was going with a cheaper quarterback in cash games, I'm doing one cash game live. I'm normally not a huge cash game player, but for NFL, I usually do run cash. But it would be Drake May as the cheap quarterback. And then if I was going with the more spend up option, I think I would go Josh Allen. Still deciding. I'm between 2 builds right now, and they both the question is either Josh Allen or Drake May. So those would be my 2 cash quarterbacks.
I know Joe Burrow projecting very well today for a potential cash game setting too. I'm on the either Mac Jones or who am I looking at here? Justin Fields as the potential cash quarterbacks I was looking at targeting this week on FanDuel. How about you, Kristi?
Yeah, I like all those guys too. I'd also throw in Lamar Jackson. I think, again, there's, a decent value even at some of the running back spots that we'll get to in a little bit, but I do like Lamar there. But yeah, Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen, like you mentioned. I do like the Justin Fields call, Drake May as well. But yeah, for me, I'm running just a few single entries over on FanDuel, and I do have Lamar currently right now in my single entry contest over there.
A lot of similar names for me in tournaments. I'm going my main guys: Josh Allen, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Drake May. Like those are the 4 that I'm targeting the most today. Kristi, if you were looking to get different in a large field, who are a couple of the other options you'd be looking at on DraftKings?
Yeah, well, I think Dak Prescott is one that stands out quite a bit. Talked about, just 5,900 over on DraftKings. And again, there's some cheaper plays, especially at the tight end position that I think are going to be a little bit chalkier and such. So I think he's a good pivot, not carrying much ownership either. I don't mind Bo Nix. I think this is an interesting bounce back spot for him. So especially in large field GPPs, don't mind that. Throw Jared Goff in there too. Kind of interesting Detroit-Chicago game. Certainly like some pieces of that. But yeah, I would say probably my favorite is Dak Prescott.
Kyle, how many lineups you running total tonight, and who are some of your lower owned getting different plays?
Doing 150 on DraftKings and 3 on FanDuel. Only got to 3 on FanDuel for this week. But The low owned guys that I like the most, I love Dak Prescott in this, but I think this is a great spot. New York was a pretty extreme pass funnel last year, and that could translate again here. I think they're going to have a really good run defense, and I know Javonte Williams got there last week, but I don't think Dallas is going to be a team that's going to be able to establish a run often. So I love the spot for Dak. Like Trevor Lawrence quite a bit as well. I think obviously Joe Burrow is going to be the popular, stacking option with those pass catchers over there. But this is a game that's going to have a lot of attention, popularity wise, but also just from the Vegas total, I think it projects really well. But Lawrence, obviously, you can pair him up with a couple of guys who had some disappointing games in week 1 as well, and get some low ownership there. Drake May, I love. I mean, he's projecting as the optimal quarterback in our projections right now, and we have him for 6% projected ownership. I do think it might come in a bit higher than that, but I mean, it's a great matchup for Miami. Miami was a team I had circled coming into the season, decimated in the secondary. They lost like 3 or 4 corners, either through trade or injury coming into the season, and it wasn't really something they planned for. Obviously, the Ramsey trade, they did some thinking, but a lot of injuries led to Miami having some trouble in the secondary. And then Mac Jones is fine at 4K, obviously with the price being so cheap. I'm a little worried that they just run the ball a lot. They have 3 active tight ends, only 4 or 5 active wide receivers when they could have potentially had an extra receiver. But so I think they're going to run it quite a bit. So I'm a little nervous about Mac Jones. And then the last name, the real weird name for me, is Joe Flacco. He could throw the ball 50 times in this game. So, and then I do love the Bo Nix call as well.
I do have Flacco in one of my 20 lineups as well. I'm running 20 on FanDuel, 20 on DraftKings, and then some single entry stuff. Let's pivot over to FanDuel, see if we have any changes, differences at the QB position over here. Kyle, I'll keep it with you first. But a reminder that if you played that FanDuel no sweat contest last week, your tickets expire today. So make sure you get them in either for this slate, the afternoon slate, the showdown slate, something. They expire today. So make sure if you played that FanDuel no sweat contest, the stuff you got back, that you have to use that today. So reminder on that. I'm quite bullish on Mac Jones over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'm still playing him, but less so. I don't think that 6K is quite as valuable as the 4K over on DK. Kyle, any big differences for you here at QB, and who would be your FanDuel cash guy?
Not a ton of massive differences in terms of the guys I'm most interested in. I will say the quarterback pricing feels a little bit more tight amongst the guys up top. So I think I prefer Lamar on FanDuel, $300 cheaper than Josh Allen. He currently projects as our optimal quarterback on FanDuel. So he'd probably be my cash game over there. Drake May at that 6.8 price tag does feel pretty nice, getting a $2,000 discount between him and Josh Allen. All 3 of those guys I like quite a bit, but other than that, the only name that I'm getting more of on FanDuel than on DraftKings is Jalen Hurts. I think he's a pretty interesting option just because he's going to get, I think, pretty overlooked. I'd be surprised if he has any more than 5% ownership in some of these smaller contests, just because you have Burrow, Allen, and Lamar all right there. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to get forgotten. And obviously, Herbert had a good game against the Chiefs in week 1. So if that's going to be a spot where maybe they're dealing with some growing pains, could be a good bounce back spot for Jalen Hurts in the passing attack. And we just got a report from Garofolo that says they want to get A.J. Brown targets early, which it shouldn't be surprising, but that could be an overreaction spot to maybe get some low ownership for the Eagles.
Kristi, how about you? How are you differentiating here on FanDuel? And I'm assuming if you're playing Lamar on DK Cash, you'd be looking for Lamar FanDuel Cash as well.
No, and actually, I probably said that wrong. Lamar is who I'm playing on FanDuel. That's who my single entry is on FanDuel. I thought we were talking about that, but no, Mac Jones is who I like on DraftKings. That's my guy over there. Don't like him as much over on FanDuel. For me, single entry on FanDuel is Lamar Jackson. I just think it makes sense. He is a little bit cheaper than Josh Allen, but I think all those guys, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen, are the 4 that we have, projected to be the most popular. And I like all those. They all fit FanDuel scoring very, very well. I know Kyle mentioned Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great spot for half point PPR, a lot of rushing upside there. So I like that. No Goddard this week. And then just a few others for GPPs. I like the Drake May. Obviously a great price tag there. Dak Prescott. Still somebody that I'm interested. Justin Fields, I think, is a great play too. And then Bo Nix, really have interest on both sites in larger field tournaments.
I think if in case you didn't know, our football content does start early morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific here on RotoGrinders. And I think in that first show, Dean brought up a really good point for FanDuel Cash that like you have the Ravens with a 29-point total, the highest implied team total on the slate. Just play Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in cash. Try and soak up all of those points. And it does kind of give you a really nice floor in that situation. Sure, something like a Josh Allen and Derrick Henry might have a higher ceiling because then you can get all the touchdowns from two teams, but you don't know that that's how it's going to work out. And so I do like the idea of putting Henry and Allen in there together. Let's pivot back over to DraftKings, talk about the running back position where there's two spots on DraftKings and they're both kind of the same team that stick out like a sore thumb. And you got the 4K Mac Jones where it's a bigger difference on DraftKings. The difference between Drake May and Mac Jones on DraftKings is $1,200, whereas it's only $800 on FanDuel. Like there's a bigger gap between those guys. The other place there's a big gap, Christian McCaffrey, $7,500. Kristi, we get point per reception over here. He had 10 catches last week, and we get him $1,400 cheaper than he is on FanDuel. What are you planning on doing with McCaffrey on DraftKings? It's going to be the highest owned player, but he's in a great spot as well.
Yeah, he's just not someone that I'm going to fade. Just I like him. He's someone that I've had tagged to. His price is too cheap. I just think there's other places you can get just a little bit different. And to me, I just like him with all the injuries that they have and new quarterback situation. He's just somebody that I'm locking in. Again, I'm not playing a ton of injuries, 20 injuries over on DraftKings. So yeah, he's just a guy that I'm locking in. I think he's that valuable this week.
One of the biggest questions on the week, I think, has been like on DraftKings Cash. You're obviously playing McCaffrey. That is the guy. Who is the RB2 for cash games this week? I feel like on FanDuel, I do really like Chase Brown, but we'll get to that on DraftKings. I still like him. He's really cheap. I think he projects as the probable RB2 for cash games, but ran a lot less routes than we had seen him run at the end of last week in comparison to the end of last year. Sorry. Who is your RB2 for cash games and in general?
Yeah, so Tony Pollard is somebody that stands out on both sites. I think FanDuel I like a little bit more because he's under 6K over there too. I think he's actually the same price, but I think he's someone that I definitely don't mind. And in a couple of builds that I have over there, I currently have him in there both. And actually on the tournament side, you've got DeAndre Swift, that's 5,700. You've got ETN. You've got some guys that are pretty cheap there, but I don't mind getting to Pollard if you need to save some dollars there over Brown. But Brown is projected to be kind of the RB2.
Maybe this is my tournament brain talking, and it's like, I guess for cash, I would go Chase Brown, but for tournaments, Kyren Williams, Breece Hall, some of these guys,
Yeah, Kyren Williams.
Really liking. Yeah.
Kyren Williams at only 6,300. He's somebody that definitely stands out. I mean, it's like he's just a few $100 cheaper or few dollars more than Pollard. I think he's a great play, great tournament play.
Kyle, how about you? What are you doing with McCaffrey in tournaments? And then from a cash setting, who would be your RB2 this week?
I mean, there are a couple pivots that I think you can make, like just leverage plays, but anything when you're not playing CMC, it's strictly just game theory. I think he projects amazingly, and all things considered, when you look at the workload that he had, 32 total touches, 22 carries, 10 targets, like that's just going to be tough volume to pass up, especially for a guy as explosive as he's. I guess like the one hole that you could poke in the McCaffrey resume is that maybe the offense struggles to move the ball with Mac Jones. I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean, we saw Mac Jones play a handful of games last year and he looked pretty good. So I'm not too concerned about it, but that would be like the one issue. And then, you can pivot to Derrick Henry or Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley. I love Gibbs stays one of my favorite tournament plays. I hands down prefer Christian McCaffrey straight up, but I'll definitely have some Gibbs just to get a little bit different there. RB2 in cash for me is probably Achane. I like him quite a bit. I still think, we're going to see him have that very solid receiving floor that we didn't even really see too much last week. He only had 4 targets, 7 carries. I would say that's probably easily going to be the fewest amount of touches he's going to have in a game all season, I would bet, in a game that he plays to, start to finish. So matchup against New England is one that I think will be fine. I do think they're going to, be more pass heavy, but I think that benefits him. He can easily have, 6 or 7 catches for HN. Obviously led the league for running back catches last year. So HN would be the guy for me. Also like Pollard, do prefer him on FanDuel, just better scoring for him and better price. Obviously he's not going to be a guy that catches a ton of passes. So he's a better play for me on FanDuel. Jonathan Taylor, I also like quite a bit. He got really unlucky last week. Didn't really play much in the fourth quarter. Danny Dimes had 2 1-yard touchdown runs. So, that could have easily been 12 additional points and then maybe even some more in the fourth quarter for Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, brutal matchup there against Denver, but he's certainly a guy who could be a low-owned option in tournaments at that price at 6-7. But a couple other names that I like. I mean, so for me, I think Kyren Williams' ownership isn't getting up there as much as I sort of thought he would. And if he was going to be one of the more popular running backs on the slate, he'd be a guy that I'd probably look to fade. I think it's a really tough matchup for him, but it is tough to really, get too excited about a fade there because you're just going to touch the ball so many times. And the 6-3 price tag is not too expensive at all. So I do think he's fine. James Conner, I like quite a bit at 6-6. And I think those are the majority of the names for me in that mid-range.
Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard do worry me a little bit just based on I don't like playing underdog running backs against really good defenses. Like I just fear that might be a situation where they each have 21 carries for 60 yards and that's about it. But I guess I'm also playing Travis Etienne, which is almost the same thing. I don't think the Bengals run defense is as good as either of those two teams, but it also looked pretty fine last week. So I say that, but then I'm playing Travis Etienne. Etienne, Connor, Kyren Williams, Chase Brown are all guys I'm getting to a fair amount on DraftKings. But I think my favorite for tournaments, $6,200 Breece Hall. Buffalo already has a terrible run defense, and the Jets are the same team as the Ravens, but the Walmart version, the dollar store version, the no-name version. They run a ton of zone runs. Justin Fields is going to run just a lot, just like just like Lamar Jackson, and same for Breece Hall and Derrick Henry. They're not as good. Don't get me wrong; they are not as good. But we saw what just happened to Buffalo last week with the Ravens, and then Ed Oliver's out this week. Ed Oliver is not playing, and that's the best run stopper and best defensive player for the Buffalo Bills. And so I really, really love Breece Hall this week, only $6,200 on DraftKings. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, like Kyle mentioned, the other guy I'd want to throw in there for tournaments. I think he is a really strong tournaments play today, especially on DraftKings where you get the point per reception. Let's pivot over to FanDuel. Kristi, are there any, you mentioned like Pollard is definitely a better play here than on DraftKings. Chase Brown, I also like because the touchdown equity versus I'm not as worried about the point per reception. Same thing, type of thing for Derrick Henry. What are your biggest differences over here on FanDuel?
Yeah, I agree. I think Chase Brown, projects quite a bit higher. So I see why he's coming in, right under McCaffrey. So obviously still like McCaffrey, but yeah, Chase Brown's right up there. Pollard's up there. I mentioned, DeAndre Swift as just a pivot too. He's cheap over on FanDuel as well. So don't mind that. I like the Jahmyr Gibbs call too. I think that's a great tournament play. I think you mentioned him, Kyle. I think that's a sneaky play. They're going up against their old offensive coordinator. So I think that's interesting. A-Chain obviously is great as well. Kyren Williams, I prefer him over on DraftKings just because he's just 6,300 over there. So that's definitely a preference over there. I love your Breece Hall call. I think just fantastic tournament play. I do think Derrick Henry too. I think getting McCaffrey, Henry, and Pollard is very doable over on FanDuel. Again, there's a couple cheaper options kind of in the mid-range for receivers, so like that. But yeah, Chase Brown is probably one that stands out as definitely have more exposure to him over on FanDuel. And I do want to get a piece of that game. And he's kind of a guy I'm looking to get in there, along with Higgins that we'll get to at the receiver talk shortly.
Kyle, anything else you want to touch on at FanDuel running back, or should we pivot to receiver?
The one thing I forgot to mention that kind of, I guess, relates to FanDuel, Trayvon Henderson is one of my favorite tournament plays on DraftKings. Don't love them as much on FanDuel because of the half-point PPR situation. But I think, we got the report that they're going to potentially change up some things in the rotation for running backs, and that shouldn't be overly surprising. I mean, Henderson's going to develop a bigger role in this offense naturally, just being a rookie. But I mean, he's just the much better player compared to Ramondre Stevenson, and I do think he's going to end up being the guy who gets the high value touches as well, with the more receiving work and potentially the goal line work as well, and also just has big play upside. So Henderson's a guy who I like quite a bit. You can even put him in stacks with Drake May. I think he caught 6 balls last week, and again, if we're going to expect him to play even more this week, he's going to project to have a solid receiving role. Don't love him as much. I don't think you necessarily need to get there on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I did want to mention that name.
Kyle, are you okay with Travis Etienne and Chase Brown together in the same lineup this week?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you're not stacking, quarterbacks and pass catchers in that game, those two should be some guys that you're looking at first click, because this game's going to have points for sure. Both pretty bad defenses, pretty good offenses. So if you're not using the quarterbacks and pass catchers in this one, you should be looking at those running backs as like potential first click option.
All right, we'll pivot over back to DraftKings wide receiver here. Kyle, I'll keep it with you. At the top of the projected ownership, we got 2 Cincinnati guys, and I'm building most of my lineups kind of thinking I would like a Bengal in each of them, whether that be T. Higgins, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase. I'm kind of trying to get one of them in each of the lineups I play, especially on DraftKings where they're a little bit cheaper. And then you got Hollywood Brown, $5,200, 16 targets last week. How are you handling the receiver position up top?
Yeah, probably my favorite position from a game theory perspective, because there's so many like elite players who had bad performances week 1 that could be a little bit lower owned. I mean, Jamar Chase had a horrible performance, and he's not going to go under the radar. But I mean, obviously, I love Jamar Chase, love Puka. I mean, Puka missed portions of the game last week when he had his face cut, and he still had 11 targets. So he's going to be heavily involved in that offense. So he's probably my favorite receiver on the slate in terms of spend ups. I like him even more than Jamar Chase, which might be a little bit of a hot take, but I like him quite a bit. And then CeeDee Lamb, I mean, we've talked about Dak Prescott, so he's going to be the number 1 pairing option there. My favorite receiver play of the week, though, is going to be Brian Thomas. Love the spot for him. I think he's going to be a little bit more, low owned than he probably should be because of that week 1 performance, but we won't see him have another 1-catch game this year. I don't think that's going to be something. We might not even see it in the rest of his career. Like a 1-catch game for a guy this good, probably is not going to happen often. And then another play that I absolutely love here is Calvin Ridley. I mean, he had a 32% target share in week 1 in the worst matchup possible, had 2 bad drops at the end of the game as well. So 8 targets for Ridley. Great spot here against the Rams for him to potentially bounce back. I think Cam Ward looked pretty good considering the conditions that he had in week 1, going on the road against maybe the best defense in football. So love Calvin Ridley. That 4.9 price tag. If we would have gotten a semi-solid game from Ridley at 4.9, I think he would be 25% owned. And we have him at 12.5% projected ownership right now. So ownership is going to be pretty significantly discounted on Ridley because of that bad game in week 1.
Cash on DK, I think I would be looking at probably Higgins, Brown, and Puka, but I would want one of Chase or Higgins in there. I think, especially if I'm not playing Chase Brown, but if I am playing Chase Brown, my priorities would be Hollywood and Puka, and then probably a Bengal, but BTJ, Ricky Pearsall, Calvin Ridley, all those guys totally fine for that setting as well. Kristi, who are your top receivers today on DraftKings?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Kyle mentioned. I mean, yeah, obviously T. Higgins looks great on both sides, but at 6,100, you can see why he's the cash game play. And I do want exposure to, either him, Chase, or Chase Brown. Got to get exposure to that game. Love the Brian Thomas call. I completely agree. I think, he's going to be in a great bounce back spot here. And especially I want to get exposure on the other side. He's a key component. He's someone that I tagged early on. Love the Puka call too. I mean, he's just great. And like, Kyle mentioned, he was out portions of the game being injured, still put up a huge game, second in receiving yards for week 1. So I really like Puka.
If you're doing a fantasy football draft, either best ball or season long, and injuries are turned off, you can guarantee that players will not get hurt. Is your first overall pick Puka Nacua or Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, I think Puka's right up there in the conversation, TJ, right? I mean, my goodness, like looks phenomenal. Great start, no injuries. Yeah. I think you're probably looking at Puka.
Yeah,
I think you
that's
are.
exactly how I feel too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hollywood Brown, I think, again, cash game play for sure at just 5,200. No Xavier Worthy, no Rice. I mean, there's fewer guys to target. So you got to have some exposure there. I like Mac Jones, as I mentioned earlier, at just a min price. So I like Ricky Pearsall a ton over on DraftKings. I know he's projected to be decently popular, but I do like him. We've talked about the Dallas game, so CeeDee Lamb, like him a ton. I do have interest in Malik Neighbors, especially getting exposure to the Dallas side. I do like getting, Neighbors in there. He did have 12 targets last game. I think it's not as difficult as a matchup for him. So he's a little expensive, but you can get there with guys like Mac Jones and some of the cheaper plays out there. So certainly like him. Let's see, Zay Flowers I would throw in there too. Really like him over on FanDuel, which we'll get to. He's just 6,300 over there. And then just a couple of GPP plays that I think are interesting more for large field, because they're certainly set up to disappoint. But if you're looking to get different, Tyreek Hill did not look good. But, if the upside is still there, I think getting some exposure to him, and then also throw Cortland Sutton in there. We talked a little bit about Bo Nix in large field tournaments too, and I do like getting exposure to Cortland Sutton.
A couple other guys I'll throw in there. Joshua Palmer, Vanek mentioned on the last show. I like both. I like Palmer and Coleman, and even Shakir as pairings with Josh Allen today. I think they're really strong plays. And then just like some dart throws, long shots, like apologies if either of you have already mentioned him, and this isn't quite a long shot dart throw, but Keyshawn Boutte I think is an awesome play at only 4,500. Then the long shot dart throws I'm taking a shots on is I have one lineup with Kendrick Bourne. Jawan Jennings is in, and so that makes me I'm not bullish on Bourne or anything, but him and Mac Jones have played together before. Only $3,500. They have no receivers left. I think he could get some snaps, could be somewhat interesting. And then Tyquan Thornton for the Chiefs. He's the one who got all the air yards last week. He catches a bomb. He could have a really big day at a very cheap price tag. My favorite wide receiver on the slate on both sites, but especially DraftKings where he's really cheap, is Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith crushes every single time Dallas Goedert is out because he runs a completely different route tree when Dallas Goedert is not on the field. Dallas Goedert runs all the over the middle, crossing, slot receiver type routes because they run so much two tight end deep offenses because they don't trust any of their wide receivers threes. They'll send Jahan Dotson deep, but they don't really trust any of their wide receiver threes, so they run Goddard that way. Whenever he is out, Devonta Smith runs almost exclusively out of the slot, and we know we like targeting slot receivers against the Chiefs. We were all over McConkey last week, and this week I absolutely love Devonta Smith. He is my favorite wide receiver play of the week, and I'm going to be getting to a lot of him. Anything else you want to touch on DraftKings, either of you, before we pivot to FanDuel receiver?
I like the Devonta Smith call. One more name I'll throw out there is Rome Odunze at 4.8. He could be a nice little pivot off of some of these more popular guys for like 4.9. You have like 3 or 4 guys in that 4.9 to like 5.5 range. Hollywood Brown, Ridley, and Chris Olave, I think are all pretty good plays, but will be pretty popular. I think Rome could be a potential pivot there. And then DK Metcalf, revenge game here against Seattle. I mean, typically don't like to buy into too many revenge narratives, but I mean, he projects well. Another good bounce back spot for him here. Devon Witherspoon is also out. So it seems like just like a perfect storm of things here for DK Metcalf. 5.9 on DraftKings, I don't mind. And then I'll throw out like 2 long shot names, like sub 4K guys. Iomanor for Tennessee, another potential value play pivot off of Calvin Ridley. And then Malik Washington played quite a bit. He actually led the Dolphins in routes ran, another sub 3.5K guy who you could potentially play in some 150 builds.
Also throwing Chris Olave. I think he's a very strong play. And Jackson Smith and Jigba with DK Metcalf. I think that's a fun little mini stack. We got to speed through this. There's only 5.5 minutes to lock, and I want to make sure we get positions and save time for a few questions. So I think biggest difference on FanDuel and DraftKings is on FanDuel, Zay Flowers is basically the same price on a tighter salary cap. And so Zay Flowers looks like a great receiver over on FanDuel. He's going to be very highly owned. He's going to be a cash play on FanDuel, whereas DraftKings, he's a low-owned good tournament play. Kristi, is there anything else you want to emphasize on FanDuel? And then we'll switch to tight end.
Yeah, I would say, you could maybe throw in, you've got McMillan, looks like a pretty decent play kind of in the mid tier there. You could also throw like Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer, maybe I like your Palmer call there, but if you needed to save some money, you already mentioned Olave, but yeah, I think the biggest one is Zay Flowers that really stands out as a great cash game play to start your lineups with at receiver.
At tight end, there's Trey McBride up top, or you can go on FanDuel. You have Warren, Fannin, Njoku, Juwan Johnson, Brenton Strange, all kind of in the same price. You looking at these 5K guys, Kristi, or are you trying to go up to Trey McBride?
I'm looking at Trey McBride. I'm getting him in, especially on my main single entry. He's just so far ahead of everybody else, in my opinion. I mean, you could throw Kelsey, Laporta, okay plays, but I'm looking to get McBride in. I really do. I think he's one that could, break the slate open. I will say, if you're looking to save money, another guy that have some interest in is Hunter Henry at just 4,900. Don't mind that. Over on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Fannin stands out a little bit better over there because he's just kind of the min price over there.
Yeah, I think Fannin is basically DraftKings exclusively for me, where he's 3K and it's 3.1K and it's point per reception.
Exactly.
Whereas then on FanDuel, I love Hunter Henry. I'm with you there. And I also love Tyler Warren because he's 5,500 on FanDuel, where he's 45 on DraftKings, where that's a pretty big difference relative to the other tight ends. Kyle, each site, who are your top tight ends? And then we'll do a brief top defense, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, McBride, I think, is in a smash spot here. Love Tyler Warren as well. I think he'll benefit in this matchup. Fannin, I think, is like the value guy. But I think David Njoku is a fantastic tournament play. I think that's a potential spot where some overreaction. I know the price isn't great, like it's kind of in no man's land, but Njoku is one of my favorite tournament tight ends today. And then after that, it's kind of just stacking guys. I love Strange with Lawrence, Ferguson with Dak Prescott. So stacking guys with quarterbacks outside of those top 3 or 4 options.
My top defense overall is the Rams on both sites.
Yep.
My favorite low-owned option is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're super sneaky. If I got a punt, I like the Titans and I like the Eagles. How about you, Kyle?
The punt defenses that I like are the Saints and the Panthers at 2,300 against the Cardinals. Obviously, Kyler's been turnover prone at times, but Rams, I think, are probably the optimal defense for today.
Kristi?
Yep, completely agree. Rams are probably my favorite, factoring in everything, especially over on DraftKings. And then punts, I do like the Saints. I also like the Titans as well. They're probably two defenses that I'm looking at the bottom.
Lightning round, no explanations, just answers. FanDuel GPP, Kristi, Javonte Williams, Adunze, Rams D, or Pollard, Garrett Wilson, Cowboys D?
The second one, Pollard, Wilson, Cowboys.
DK Cash, Kyle, Achan and Ridley, or Hollywood Brown and Connor?
First one.
FanDuel Cash, Kristi, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce, or Ted McMillan, Mark Andrews?
Which one of those?
Yeah. For FanDuel Cash.
McMillan.
Okay. McMillan, Andrews side. QQ, using Saquon Barkley in a large field tournament, would you do Devontae and JSN or Gibbs and Tillman, Kyle?
Second one.
FanDuel Cash, Kristi, Zay Flowers and the Cowboys, or Hollywood Brown and the Saints?
Flowers and Cowboys.
Yeah, agreed. Of course, as soon as I switch to YouTube, the bots are back. Okay. Fannin or Njoku. I think that on FanDuel, that's Njoku. On DraftKings, that's Fannin based on their prices. Fannin and DK Cash, yes. Can we play Henry with May for a cash stack? You don't got to worry about stacking in cash, but yes, that is fine. best low price defense on FanDuel. I think it's the Seahawks. On DraftKings, Kristi, who's your top defensive punt?
I'd probably say the Saints.
Hunter Henry or Fannin, DK Cash, Kyle?
Fannin.
What do you think about Gibbs tonight in all settings? I don't think he's a cash play, but what do you think about Gibbs in tournaments, Kristi?
Oh, I think he's a good tournament play. Yep.
Any interest Gibbs and DK Cash? No, I don't think he's a cash play. FanDuel Cash, would you play George Pickens, Kyle?
In cash?
Yeah.
No, not in cash. Good tournament.
Pearsall or Moore, we have hit the lock, but I would go Pearsall in that scenario. But other than that, we hit all the questions. Great job, everybody. Kristi, before we get out of here, who is breaking the slate? Who's going to be in the tournament winning lineup?
Oh, who's going to be in the tournament? Well, I think that over on DraftKings, I still kind of going back to the San Francisco onslaught. I like Pearsall, like just all the guys over there. So going with Mac Jones, Pearsall, all those guys.
Kyle, how about you? Who is the slate breaker today? What's your hot take?
I'm going with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he goes for 150 all-purpose yards and scores twice. I think it's a good spot for him and a great bounce back spot after kind of a lackluster week one.
For me, it is Devonta Smith. I think he gets 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown today. He is breaking the slate. He is going to win tournaments for you. Smash the like button on your way out. We've been here since 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. I know lots of you are watching on your phones, on your tablets. It's hard to find the like button. So you got to go to YouTube. You see these three lovely faces right here, but alas, there's no like button. So what do you got to do? You got to click that little X. You got to hide the chat. It's hard to do from this angle. There we go. And then give the like button a little quick. We've had over 2,000 people watching across the platforms, only 150 likes on YouTube. Do us a favor, hit that like button on your way out. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today on behalf of myself, Kyle, Kristi, and everyone that joined us this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tonight for Sunday Night Football with myself and Chief. And we'll peace out. See ya.